Shalom Israel, Most High in Christ blessed. My name is Brother Zerubbabel,
My name is Edris Elazar.
and we are with Children of Israel. Once again, we are back on this Sabbath day to bring another lesson out to feed the flock of Israel with that sincere milk of the Word, to enlighten you, give you some wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the Scriptures, and bringing out this milk as we do from time to time. Especially on the Sabbath day. This lesson we're going to be bringing out today is, as all lessons that come out of the scriptures are important, but this one is one of the main important ones, um, as far as we as Israelites today, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, in that the Most High is commanding us that there be no divisions among us. And when he says no divisions, he means no divisions. Unfortunately, because of divisions that we and some of our other brothers don't see eye to eye with other brothers out here teaching, that have come to accept the divisions in Israel. Um, but the divisions that we're experiencing in Israel today is no different than the divisions that we experienced in the past. So that's one of the things we're going to go through in this lesson, is go back into the history and show the history of the dividing of our nation. Also to show how the division among our nation have hurt our nation and put us into the position that we're in today, in that things have not changed. The continued division among us is continuing um, to hurt our nation, continuing to keep us in a position to where we're not able to rise up. How can we rise up if we can't come together? Um, it's sad to see that in today's climate, with this Israeli Hamas war going on over there in our land, um, that this group of people that have taken on our identity, that have taken on, so quote unquote, our religion, um, seem to understand unity more than we do,
Right.
because that's all it took. Whether you agree that this so-called attack was planned, executed, and allowed to happen, you know what I mean? Or, if it's just one of those things that happen, whatever the case, whatever your belief is, that's all it took for them to rise up and come together worldwide. Look at the Palestinians. All it took was for Israel to start bombing and respond. And look at all the marching going on around the world among the Palestinians coming together. Even during the Black Lives March rallies that were going on at one point in time during the, uh, what do you call it, the pandemic, after George Floyd got, was unalived, I guess they like to call it nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
uh, for the world to see, our people still couldn't actually all come together even under that, because there were people that were for it, some people that were against it. But we can learn a lesson from these other groups that seem to somehow mobilize, they seem to somehow come together, they seem to somehow come to support each other, rely on each other. show love towards one another. You know what I mean? Just call upon one another in unity. Whereas when we try to do that with our people, there's always those that are going to oppose. Why is that? Well, we're going to go through it and we're going to, show you the reason why. What's part of the reason why we can't get along? Part of it is of our own doing. Some parts of it come down to the crafty counsel of our enemies, of those that have oppressed us, for those that have put us into bondage. So, behoove you to listen to the lesson, or if you come across it, watch the lesson, because we are going to go into the scriptures and go into some history to show why we as people are divided. You so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You are the same people. You are God's chosen people. But why is it today that you can't seem to get along with each other? The blacks hate the Hispanics, Hispanics hate the blacks, Native Americans hate the Hispanics and the blacks and Hispanics hate the Native Americans. We fight each other, kill each other, gang bang against each other, sell drugs to and against each other, because of an all-out war of who's gonna, control the drug industry, all this kind of dumb stuff. Fighting each other over street name, color of your skin, color of your clothing, color of a rag, fighting over a area code, just fighting over all kinds of dumb stuff. But then when it comes to coming together and supporting each other, we just cannot seem to do it. And then even amongst the Israelite groups, we still can't seem to come together, even though we're waking up, understanding that we're the Israelites, coming back to the understanding that we're God's chosen people, that we're supposed to keep the commandments of the Most High. For some reason, we still can't find a way to come together. We're still divided by colors. Color, your skin's dark, your skin's light. Those light-skinned people are not Israelites. You've got the Negro only Israelites out there. Now you're starting to get some Hispanic only Israelites out there. Being divided by color of clothing. We wear black, we wear blue, we wear green, we wear white. You know what I mean? It's just foolishness on another level. Still the same foolishness. It's just different. Divided by camp affiliation, camp name, camp ABC, camp DEF, GHI, JKL. You know what I mean? Camp MNO. It just goes on and on and on.
Right.
Divided by leadership. I'm with leader so and so. I'm with leader so and so. You're with leader so and so. Can't stand your leader. Can't stand your leader. I don't like your leader. Just arguing over stupid stuff. Divided about doctrine and teachings and history. So what are we going to be able to do to change all of this? Because the scriptures tell us that there be no divisions among us. N-O, very plain, very clear, no divisions. No means none. By nationality, as far as Israelites, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we're not supposed to be divided by that. no divisions through camp affiliations. We're supposed to have gotten rid of that. What do you think Christ came for? He came to get rid of that division by nationality and by camp affiliation. As you hear some of our brothers tell it today, there was camps back then. Yeah, there were different camps back then. But what were they supposed to do? They were supposed to drop camp affiliation and come under Christ. That's the same thing we're supposed to do today. We're supposed to drop camp affiliation and all come under Christ as one nation, one church, one body. Why is that so hard to understand? Well, when we get through this lesson, it'll be somewhat clear, because there are some out there that they don't serve Christ. They serve their own belly. They've got their own agenda. That if you're not with me, you're not with us, then you're against us. But isn't that what Christ said?
Right.
So are you really trying to build with Christ and bring Christ's body back to him? Or are you trying to build your own body? That's the question some of you leaders need to ask yourselves. Because the way you're trying to build is not building, it's destroying. It's dividing. All right. So with that, let's start off with Hebrews 5 and 12 through 14. As usual, again, the name of this lesson is that there be no divisions among you.
The book of Hebrews, chapter 5, and verse 12. For when for that time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of God, and are become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. For every one that uses milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil.
And again, it goes back to some of our leadership in Israel. Some of our brothers in Israel have woken up. They understand they're Israelites. They're, relearning the laws and commandments. But in some cases, they reject some of the law and some of the commandments. They pick and choose. And one of those topics that they like to pick and choose is about there not being any divisions among us. They like to ignore that commandment, because it wasn't a suggestion, it's a commandment. He didn't say, well, you know what, I kind of suggest that you guys don't have any divisions among yourselves, because that really wouldn't be good. But if you guys decide to stay separated, I'm okay with that. That you don't read that in the scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't making a suggestion. So the reason why some people will want to have that division is because they have not exercised their senses to discern between good and evil, to see that in the eyes of the Most High, it is an evil thing for us to be divided. You can't see it. But Lord willing that enough people speak out against it, about this division among camps, that as more people wake up, that they come to the realization that no, I'm staying away from that camp life, because that's causing division. It's causing strife. Isn't that all we've been seeing lately among the camps? Is nothing but a lot of division and strife,
Right.
altercations. So why would anybody want to have anything to do with camp A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, or so on and so forth? Why would you want to have anything to do with it? When they look and they see that we can't even get along, like, why would you want to join into that? Even though by bloodline, you're already joined to it, but people already are rejecting it. One, because they don't know about it. Two, when they do find out about it and they start to research and they see the foolishness going on, that's turning a lot of people away. So you have to want to know the truth and accept the truth and be willing to do the truth. If you got ears to hear and got eyes to see, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But you've got to desire to learn. You've got to desire to want to repent, which means to change. That's something you're going to have to want to do. And unfortunately, with a lot of our brothers in this truth, a lot of them don't want to change. They're set in their ways. They're set in their doctrines. Set in the way that, they feel the way that they are and the way they run their camp or their unit or whatever it is that you want to call it. And you can't tell them that they're doing anything wrong. So even some of them need to learn how to desire the sincere milk of the word. Grab that 1 Peter 2:2.
The book of 1 Peter, chapter 2 and verse 2. As newborn babes desire the sincere milk of the word, that ye may grow thereby.
So as newborn babes, in other words, we all need to learn how to humble ourselves. We all need to learn how to desire that sincere milk of the word. Our people are divided. And I can give you another example. Again, you have some of our people that understand that they're Israelites that wanted nothing to do with Thanksgiving this past Thursday. You have some of our people that know that they're Israelites. They know the truth. They've either heard of it or they've already decided, hey, you know what, I'm an Israelite. But they don't really want to live as an Israelite. They still went and celebrated Thanksgiving on Thursday. And then there are those that don't know the truth yet. They haven't heard it. They haven't been taught it. And it's just what they've become accustomed to because that's what's been taught to us here in our captivity is the celebration of Thanksgiving. Ignorantly, because our people don't understand that when you are celebrating Thanksgiving, you're celebrating the destruction of our brothers, the Hispanics and the Native Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Who taught you to hate yourselves? We're going to go through that. It's a speech by Malcolm X. We're going to go through that today. Who taught us to be divided? Who taught us to Mexicans to hate blacks, blacks to hate Mexicans, Native Americans to hate Mexicans, to the point to where we are so divided by these new nationalities that they've given us. Some of our people, are divided by soccer teams. You might be from Argentina, so you love your Argentinian football team.
Mm-hmm.
You may be from Mexico, you love your Mexican football team. You may be from Brazil, you love your Brazilian football team. Just like here in the US with American football. You're from, San Francisco, you got your San Francisco team. You're from Texas, you got your Texas team. You from Detroit, you got your Detroit team, and so on, divided. Those little divisions among our people, which are distractions. Just in the past week, you had the Nicaraguans, just all excited and up in arms about one of their women winning the Miss Universe pageant. It didn't last that long because then the nation became divided. because there were some that were, you know what I mean, for the current president, that's now running the nation, and there are some that are still pro other president that ran the nation. So the country's divided. So because apparently this contestant, she expressed views for one side, now she's got half of the nation not liking her now because she's expressed in a speech or something how she, has support of this one president. And now the president of, of the country is withdrawing his support because, it's crazy. But you can see our people get excited over the craziest things because she won Miss Universe. And it's like, how could you proclaim yourself Mr. Universe or Miss Universe when you don't even know if there's anybody else out there in the universe? You know what I mean? There could be some man on planet whatever, somewhere way out there in the cosmos, that could be the real Mr. Universe, which actually there is. Christ is the real Mr. Universe, if you want to put it in perspective.
Right.
The real, there could be some woman somewhere out there on some other planet, you know what I mean? That could be the real Miss Universe. So that's real egotistical of people here on earth to sit here and say that, I'm Mr. Universe or I'm Miss Universe. It's crazy. And people will watch this stuff and gravitate towards it and not stop to think of the foolishness of it. But these little things like that help keep us divided as a nation of people, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans. All right. And we have to come to understand that this has become, it's something that's been taught to us. All right. So first, I'm going to share my screen. I got quite a bit of stuff to present today. All right. So just bear with me. I'm going to share my screen. Let me know when it starts to show
It's
up.
coming.
This
It's
thing is so
coming.
slow.
It's showing now.
It's showing. All right.
Yeah.
So just going to Wikipedia. This is a little article they have on here about Black, Hispanic, and Latino Americans. So from here it says Black, Hispanic, and Latino Americans, also called Afro-Hispanics, Spanish, Afro-Espanol, Afro-Latinos, or Black Hispanics or Black Latinos, are classified by the United States Census Bureau, Office of Management and Budget, and other U.S. government agencies as Black people living in the United States with ancestry in Spain, Portugal, or Latin America, and or who speak Spanish and or Portuguese as their first language. Hispanidad, which is independent of race, is the only ethnic category as opposed to racial category, which is officially collated by the U.S. Census Bureau. The distinction made by government agencies for those within the population of any official race category, including Black, is between those who report Hispanic backgrounds and all others who do not. Non-Hispanic Blacks consist of an ethnically diverse collection of all others who are classified as Black or African American that do not report Hispanic ethnic backgrounds. All right. Um, New York, or the demographics of it: New York, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, District of Columbia, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Rhode Island have some of the highest percentages of Hispanics identifying as Black, where up to 15% of Hispanics identify as Black, compared to 1.9% of Hispanics nationwide. Overall, the Northeast region has the largest concentration of Black Hispanics. This is partly because of the large Puerto Rican, Dominican, and other mostly partly African descended Hispanic populations in the region. Now, part of the problems is because these Puerto Ricans, these Dominicans, these Haitians, these Jamaicans, um, and so on, have no understanding. They're starting to learn in some of those areas, but the majority don't understand that we're the same people, that we are the children of Israel, that we are the nation of Israel, the Israelites the Bible speaks of, the 12 tribes. They have no understanding of it. And so this is part of the reason why we remain divided, because they think that they're Puerto Rican. They believe they're a Dominican or a Haitian and so on. All right. Or a Central American, such as like a Guatemalan, or a South American, like a Peruvian, a Brazilian, and so on. So to read on, Black Hispanics numbered 1,163,862 and accounted for 1.9% of the entire U.S. Hispanic population in 2020, down from 1,243,471. Most Black Hispanics in the United States come from within the Dominican and Puerto Rican populations. Aside from the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, large numbers of Black Hispanics can also be found in populations originating from northern South America and the Caribbean coast of Central America, as well as including the Panamanian and Colombian, usually from Western Colombia's Choco Department communities, as well as the Garifuna people, especially from Honduras, and to a lesser extent, the Cuban community. It says because views of race in Latin America and the United States are slightly different, there is a fluidity in identifying with terms such as Black or Afro-Latino among Latinos in the United States. Recent immigrants from Latin America are more likely to embrace mixed identities, mestizaje. Did I say it right?
Mhm.
While
Mestizaje,
thinking less. Let's say it again.
mestizaje.
Mestizaje, while thinking less of their African side, and some immigrant Latinos are full Black with little to no admixture, do not identify as Black. In contrast, Latinos who have lived in the United States for several generations are more likely to adopt urban Afrocentric mentalities from African Americans and abandon that of their home countries, embracing the one drop rule. This is especially true for large portions of the Puerto Rican and now Dominican communities on the East Coast. Some white and mixed Latinos who are Americanized in effect to embracing African American hip hop culture and the one drop rule self identify as Afro Latino Black. All right, so there are some that will identify with with being Black, and you can see that and it's probably due to some of the music industry, where you have some of these rappers, hip hop singers, R&B singers like Rihanna, um, some other ones that are coming from these other countries like the Dominican Republic, and they're identifying themselves as Black. And that's maybe helping some others come out and say, you know what, and identify as being Black, so called, you say. It says the main aspects which distinguish Black Hispanics born in the United States of America from African Americans is having Spanish as their mother tongue or most recent ancestors' native language, their culture passed down by their parents, and their Spanish surnames of all Hispanic groups. Puerto Ricans have the closest relationship with the African American community, and because of this, there is also increasing intermarriages and offspring between non Hispanic Blacks and Hispanics of any race, mainly between Puerto Ricans and African Americans, which increases both Hispanic, ethnic, and Black racial demographics. Now, that's basically could just come down to there's just something innately in our people that draws us together, no matter how much they try to divide us. Somehow, some way, we still end up, in some ways, become drawn together. Just don't understand why. That's the problem. Our people don't understand the reason behind it. In May 2022, Pew Research Center reported that there were an estimated 6 million Afro-Latino people in the United States, comprising 2% of the adult U.S. population and 12% of adult Latinos. They also stated that 1 in 7 Afro Latinos did not identify as Hispanic, and that 30% of Afro Latino adults were 18 to 29. The report also stated that Afro Latinos are more likely to be from Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic than from Mexico, noting that 40% of people had their families talk about challenges they'd face for their ethnic identity when they grew up, and that the racial groups Afro Latinos identify with can be varied and diverse. In the latter case, the report stated that about 30% of Afro Latinos identify as white. I read that again.
Hmm.
And in reality, I think their numbers can be very miscued because there are actually a lot more that are identifying with white today. There is a lot. It says in the latter case, the report stated that about 30% of Afro Latinos identified as white, 25% as black, 23% as some other race, 16% as multiple races, and 1% as Asians, with 25% of Afro Latinos classifying themselves as racially black. The total number of Black, Hispanics, Latinos in the USA would amount to 1.5 to 1.8 million Black Latinos in the USA, or 3% of the total Black, in combination with another race population, 47 million to 50 million. The US Census does not count Portuguese speakers, Brazilian, as an Hispanic ethnic group. Huh? How's that? How is that? You know what I mean? To the games that they play, which our people need to wake up and see. Um, So again, they've got us divided by language. They've got us divided by ethnicity, nationality, all these different divisions. You're black, I'm brown, you're yellow, and so on. You're uh, Negro, you're African American, we're Latino, we're Hispanic. It, by language, you speak French, you speak Portuguese, you speak Spanish. It just goes on and on. The more division, the more confusion. That's basically what it comes down to. All right. So going down, civil rights. The data from a 2021 survey by the Pew Research Center shows that Hispanic people in the U.S. with darker skin color are more likely to face incidents of discrimination than those with lighter skin. The survey asked participants to self-identify their skin color and then asked a series of questions about the kinds of discrimination they faced. When asked whether they faced at least one instance of discrimination in the last year, 64% of darker-skinned Hispanic adults responded that they had. When asked the same question, 54% of lighter-skinned Hispanic adults responded the same. As for the specific discrimination experience, 42% of darker skinned Hispanic people said that they were treated as if they were not smart, compared to 34% of those with lighter skin. 42% of darker skinned Hispanic people said they experienced discrimination by someone who was non-Hispanic, compared to 29% of those with lighter skin. 41% of darker skinned Hispanic people said they experienced discrimination by someone who is Hispanic, compared to 25% of those with lighter skin. 33% of darker skinned Hispanic people were criticized for speaking Spanish, compared to 22% of those with lighter skin. 32% of darker skinned Hispanic people were told to go back to their country, compared to 20% of those with lighter skin. Yeah, you can see that you see these things going on. All you got to do is click on YouTube and you see the videos popping up of this stuff happening. 27% of darker skinned Hispanic people feared for their personal safety, compared to 20% of those with lighter skin. 31% of darker skinned Hispanic people were called offensive names, compared to 18% of those with lighter skin. 16% of darker skinned Hispanics were unfairly stopped by police, compared to 8% of those with lighter skin. So you can see that this discrimination among our people, it doesn't discriminate, except for unless you're light skinned or dark skinned. If you're dark skinned, no matter if you're so-called African American, black, whatever you want to use, or so-called Hispanic, if you're darker skinned, they're showing that you get discriminated against a lot more than those with lighter skin, which is doing what? um, causing that division, that friction between light skin and dark skin, blacks and Hispanics, or Israelites. We're going to read about that. We're going to talk about how that happened uh, with the Willie Lynch letter. Um, we're going to, just bring out, some, things to reference today, to back up what it is that we're showing you. All right, it says in Latin America, Black Hispanics have historically had similar discrimination issues as African Americans in the U.S., including Cuba, where racial discrimination against Afro-Cubans continues to be a major human rights issue for the Cuban government, even resulting in riots in central Havana, a mostly black neighborhood in the capital. In Mexico, racism against black Mexicans has been also an often ignored issue. And seeing the thing is, a lot of the times, most people don't even realize that in a lot of these countries over there are a lot of dark skinned people, a lot of dark skinned Mexicans, a lot of dark skinned Cubans,
Mhm.
Brazilians, Puerto Ricans, you know what I mean? It goes on and on, but it's hidden in the media. It says, and it wasn't until 2020 that an option appeared on the national census allowing black Mexicans to self identify. Even though polls had showed that about 2.5 million Mexicans identify as black, racism in Puerto Rico has also been well documented. And according to Black perspectives in Puerto Rico, much like in the rest of Latin America, anti black racism is embedded in the very denial of its existence by the state and society. Brazil's racism towards its near majority Afro Brazilian population also has a long, well documented history, as well as its whitening ideology of the 1930s, when the government encouraged European migration to successfully shift the country's racial makeup to a white majority. And that is what happened. Um, and actually, that goes back to what I was actually going to mention earlier. I forgot to mention it, that there are some so-called Hispanics that identify as Asian. People don't understand the reason why is happening or is happening. There are a lot of Asians in Mexico and Central and South America. There are a lot of so-called Hispanics that are over in the Asian countries. Some of our brothers and sisters are over there, and they look like them. Um, Philippines, um, Vietnamese. What are some of the other ones over there? My mind's going blank. Oh,
Japanese? I don't know.
well, even in Japan, but more so over in some of these other nations. You know what I mean? The reason why you go back and look at the history during the time of Spain, when Spain came over here to conquer, it wasn't just our Native American and Hispanic brothers and sisters over here that they conquered. They were conquering on the other side of the world also, and they were shipping our people back and forth. They were shipping Mexicans and Central and South Americans over to these countries, and shipping some of these Filipinos, some of these Vietnamese, some of these other Cambodians. That's what I was trying to get out, to go look at some of the Cambodians. There are a lot of so-called Hispanics in these countries, and you people wonder, like, how did they get over here? Well, that's how they got over there. You got to go look at the history of the the shipping back and forth, and uh, the slavery that they were put under, just like the so-called blacks from Africa. They did it to them, to our brothers and sisters first. And so there are a large number of our people in these countries that are, that they are not um, Native Americans or Native so-called Hispanics. They were shipped over here and mixed, mixed together. So you got to keep that in mind. Um, and as you can see, what it's talking about here with Brazil. It says Brazil's racism towards its near majority Afro-Brazilian population also has a long, well-documented history, as well as its whitening ideology of the 1930s when the government encouraged European migrations to successfully shift the country's racial makeup to a white majority. And we just read earlier in this article about how they said that Brazilians are not even classified as a Hispanic ethnic group. They won't even identify. All right. Um, let me see.
Um, Argentinians are like that also.
Oh wow, maybe that's what it's about to talk about next. It says in Honduras, racism against Afro-Hondurans also received international attention as the country struggles with discrimination issues. Racism in Argentina, which has a 97% white population, is also well documented, such as the what's this dude, Pope.
Francis.
Yeah, Pope Francis, new Pope. You know, everybody's he's from he's an Argentinian, but he's an Edomite. He's not no native Argentinian. You know what I mean? So don't people need to not get that twisted. And that's what's keeping a lot of our people in the Catholic Church is because of that. Because they feel they've got them a real Hispanic Pope now. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It says racism in Argentina, which has a 97% white population, also well documented and persists against indigenous peoples, immigrants, Afro Argentines, Mestizo Argentines, Jews, and Arabs. Even in countries with majority black Hispanic populations, such as the Dominican Republic, the case of racism against darker skinned Dominicans and neighboring Haitians is an issue. A Pew Research report published in May 2022 surveyed Afro-Latinos. Findings included 61% of Afro-Latinos saying they were discriminated against, including be more likely than other Latinos in being stopped by police, criticized by others, or speaking Spanish in a public place, and people around them thinking they are not smart. All right. In the media, says in the early days of the movie industry in the United States of America, when black Hispanic actors were given roles, they would usually be cast as African Americans. For those with Spanish speaking accents that betrayed an otherwise presumed African American, they may seldom have been given roles as Hispanics. And the mixed race Hispanic and Latino actors of African appearance were mostly given Hispanic roles. Those who claim that black Hispanics are not sought to play Hispanic roles in the United States allege this unfairly leads the masses of viewers to an ignorance to the existence of darker skinned Hispanics. Further, some black Hispanics who identify themselves as black but have also mixed race heritage, also affirming their Hispanicity, may be deprived of their status as black people among African Americans and categorized by society as non-black in the American historical context. A lot of this being done purposely to keep us divided. It says critics accuse U.S. Hispanic media, including Latin American media, of overlooking black Hispanic and Latino Americans and black Latin Americans in the telenovelas. If you watch any of these telenovelas, um, you see it that they have our people so brainwashed watching some of these shows that they don't even realize that some of these actors are not even Hispanic. They're not our people. Some of them are Russian that just so happen to be able to speak Spanish. Some of them are Spaniards coming over from Spain. Um, there's a few of them, um, that are well known that people would think that they are, our people, but they're not. Let me see. Let me find one. Uh, mm, right. So I just, first one that came to my mind. All right. This is a show called Teresa, and the lady that plays in the actually some of these actors, they're most of them are well known. Some of them have played in multiple telenovelas. All right. Um, so this actress right here, Angelique Boyer, people think that she's one of our people from watching all these shows that she plays in. Angelique Boyer was born on 4 July 1988 in Tours, France. She is an actress known for Jokel, Rebelde, and Amadillero. Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you said it right.
What happened? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Testing, testing.
Testing, testing, testing. Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
What happened?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, oh, you can hear me? Oh, okay, okay. All right. So, huh?
Is there a delay?
So you can hear me now?
You
See,
can't hear
I
me.
don't know what's going on. I can hear you. It pops in and out. But can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. But this lady here has played in a lot of these shows, but she's actually from France. All right. But she moved to Mexico in 1990 at the age of 2. So she grew up in Mexico, which, why she speaks Spanish so well. But she's not a Mexican. All right. So that's just, one of the examples. Let me go back. I'll click on a couple of the other actors that are in the show. And that's where, our people don't go, at least, and it doesn't take a lot of searching. You go right here on IMDb and these names, some of them. All right, he's Argentinian from Argentina, but he's probably an Edomite also. He's probably one of those Edomites that was sent there, or family moved there. Let me see, Aaron Diaz. He was born in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. All right. Is this thing slowing down in your end?
Yes.
Cynthia, click. It's slowing down in your end?
Yes.
All right. She was born in Mexico. So even though she was born in Texas, says American actress and singer Ana Brenda Contreras was born in December in McAllen, Texas. She may actually be Mexican. All right. She was born in Mexico. Just click on born in Tijuana, Baja, Mexico. I'm surprised. That's why I clicked on that. She looks straight Edomite, but you're gonna find some of our people over there that do.
Right.
Got blonde hair, blue eyes. So, um, born in Colombia. All right. But if you get a chance, you know what I mean, to go through some of these shows that are, shown on, these Mexican channels and stuff, these Spanish channels, and look up these actors and actresses, and you will find that many of them are not Mexican. A lot of them were, are from, like I said, you'll find some that are from Russia, um, Spain, like she's from France, you know what I mean? And because they can pass as being Mexican or being Hispanic and they speak Spanish, they throw them into these shows because of their light skin. If you notice all these shows, like the actors and actresses just on that, the one we just clicked on, you didn't see no dark skinned Latinos or Hispanics, playing in that show. You rarely see any dark skinned actors or actresses in these telenovelas, as it's saying here in this article. Um, Let me go back. It said,
Can you hear me?
yeah, yeah.
If you do see any dark skin, they're playing the roles of criminals or waitresses or house cleaners or butlers or
And
any
that is true.
garbage cleaners.
Yeah, so that's crazy. That's true. That is true. So again, it says critics accuse U.S. Hispanic media, including Latin American media, of overlooking Black, Hispanic, and Latino Americans and Black Latin Americans in the telenovelas, mostly stereotyping them as impoverished people, like you just said. Miles Morales, created in 2011 as one of the incarnations of Spider-Man and the protagonist of the run of Spider-Man in the Ultimate Universe of Marvel and the animated trilogy of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, is an Afro-Latino American born in Brooklyn to a Puerto Rican mother and an African-American father. In January 2020, The Owl House began airing on the Disney Channel. The series would feature Luz Nakeda, a Afro-Latino character whose parents are from the Dominican Republic, and was based on a friend of the show's creator, Dana Taurasi, Luz Batista, who insisted that the character be Dominican like her. In February 2021, LATV Networks LLC premiered Black Trinidad, the first national TV series focusing specifically on the Black Latin experience. So you can look up, here are some of the references. Go and look up a lot of this stuff and see what is really going on, and why our people are divided. Some of it is orchestrated. It's being done on purpose. All right. Um, so the next thing I'm going to do is I want to go through this uh, Malcolm X speech, who taught you to hate yourself. Um, as so-called Blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, um, we've been taught by our oppressors to hate not only ourselves individually, but ourselves as a people, as a nation of people, hating each other. Um, so I'm gonna see if I could get the video to play. I can get it to play, but see if it'll actually have sound. If it doesn't, I have an alternative. Right? So I'm gonna try and play the speech. Let me know if you can hear it.
All right. No audio. No.
So it can't hear nothing.
Mm.
Huh?
No, nothing.
So I don't know why this keeps happening. No matter what I try to do, I don't understand why none of videos that we play have sound. All right. In the case of that, we'll go to our alternative. Came ready. So this is actually a transcript of the video of the speech. All right. So you can see as it was coming on, there was applause in the name of course, them being Muslim, we're using Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, to whom all praise is due, whom we forever thank for giving us the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as our leader, teacher, and guide. And I specifically, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, open up like that because I am a representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And were it not for him, you and I wouldn't be here today. In order for you and me to devise some kind of method or strategy to offset some of the events or the repetition of the events that have taken place here in Los Angeles recently, we have to go to the root. We have to go to the cause. Dealing with the condition itself is not enough. We have to get to the cause of it all or the root of it all. And it is because of our effort toward getting straight to the root that people oftentimes think we're dealing in hate. And nothing's changed. When we go out in the streets and teach, you see the Israelite brothers out there on the streets teaching.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing they say is you're teaching hate. It says, but first I would like to congratulate and give praise to the Negro, so-called Negro leaders and so-called Negro organizations. And excuse me if I say so-called, it's hard for me to just outright say Negro when I know what that word Negro really means. You see, it says the person whom you have come to know as Ronald Stokes, we know him as Brother Ron, one of the most religious persons to display the highest form of morals of any black person anywhere on this earth. And as one of the previous speakers pointed out who knew him, everyone who knew him had to give him credit for being a good man, a clean man, an intelligent man, an innocent man when he was murdered. That was the whole purpose behind this speech, is that they were having a rally um, around this Ronald that had gotten murdered. Says the Negro, so-called Negro organizations and leaders should be given great credit for their failure or refusal to let the white man divide them and use them one against the other during this crisis. As Reverend Walker Wilson pointed out, I think it was 8 years ago today that the Supreme Court handed down the desegregation decision. And despite the fact that 8 years have gone past, that decision hasn't been implemented yet. And how many years are we past that? And you still can't get past the segregation that goes on? It's still happening. And it's going to continue to happen. Um, it's just much more hidden. It says, I don't have that much faith. I don't have that much confidence. I don't have that much patience. And I don't have that much ignorance to. He paused. There's applause. If the Supreme Court, which is the highest lawmaking body in the country, can pass a decision that can't get even 8% compliance within 8 years because it's for black people, then my patience has run out. When black people who are being oppressed become impatient, they say that's emotional. And you see that we always get that label anytime we stand up and we want to express our feelings, we want to express our our desires for change. We want to express, how we feel, you know what I mean, as far as the way our people are treated and dealt with in this country. It's always you're emotional. It says, please, when black people who are being deprived of their citizenship, not only of their civil rights, but their human rights, become impatient, become fed up, don't want to wait any longer, then they say that's emotional. The Negro, so-called Negro leaders and organizations should be praised. They should be congratulated. They should be complimented because out of all of them combined, the white man has not yet found one who will play the role of Uncle Tom. But yet he has found no Tom, no puppet, no parrot who was still dumb enough in 1962 to represent the injustices that he is inflicting against our people. We don't care what your religion is. We don't care what organization you belong to. We don't care how far in school you went or didn't go. We don't care what kind of job you have. We have to give you credit for shocking the white man by not letting him divide you and use you one against the other. But unfortunately today, because a lot of more of our people have jobs, you have some of our people that just because they're attorneys, they're doctors, they are looking down upon their own people. Some that are actors, actresses, athletes that have made a lot of money in this society look down upon us normal, every average, everyday Joe people. They have us divided by social status now, also today. It says in the past, the greatest weapon the white man has had has been his ability to divide and conquer. It hasn't changed. He may have been seeing that happening on somewhat of a small scale back then, but overall, um, he's still dividing and conquering us. It says, as Jackie Robinson pointed out beautifully on the television last night, 4/5 of the world isn't white. Isn't that what Jackie said? And if 4/5 of the world is dark, how is it possible for 1/5 to rule, oppress, exploit, dominate, and brutalize the 4/5 who are in the majority? How did they do it? Divide and conquer. If I take my hand and slap you, you don't even feel it. It might sting you because these digits are separated. But all I have to do to put you back in your place is bring those digits together. This is what the white man has done to you and me. He has divided us and used us one against the other. But today, thanks to, he's saying Allah, you can say thanks to God or thanks to Jesus or thanks to Jehovah, whatever you want. But as a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we have been taught to say thanks to Allah. So he's basically saying that's what they've been taught, to say thanks to Allah, where we know that that's an error, that we should be giving all praise and thanks to the Most High and his Son, Jesus the Christ. It says, and that's what Jesus said. Jesus called on Allah. He said Allah and speaks Arabic. I believe what's good for Jesus is good for you. If Allah was good enough for Jesus to call upon, I think he should be good enough for you to call upon. And that's what people say. That's right. Since the so-called Negro community has shocked the white man by resisting all efforts to divide us, I think that you and I should continue to shock him. You see, that was not completely true even back then, that, there was still disunity among, the Black Panther Party, amongst the Nation of Islam, and many other organizations that were springing up at that time. There was still disunity. It says, by singing and working together in unity, despite religious, political, economic, or education or social differences, let us remember that we are not brutalized because we're Baptist. We're not brutalized because we're Methodists. We're not brutalized because we're Muslims. We're not brutalized because we're Catholics. We are brutalized because we are Black people in America. Here, your mother is being raped and you're not supposed to be emotional. Your women, please, your women can't walk the street without some cracker putting his hands on her. And you're not supposed to be emotional. If you say that you're fed up, if you teach the Negro, the film skips, they don't even know their own name. That's right. Why? Because he took it away from her. Please, 20 million Black people don't even know their own language. Why? Because he took it away from us. 20 million Black people who don't even know their history of their ancestors. Why? Because he took it away from us. And if you try and tell them how thoroughly and completely they've been robbed, he says you're teaching hate. Isn't the same thing still going on today? We're trying to teach our people that they've been robbed of their history, their heritage, their language, their land, their riches, everything. And then they turn around and say we're teaching hate. That's something to think about. Today, we're coming out of college. You're coming out of leading universities. You're trying to go in a good direction, but you don't know which direction to go in. And if somebody tries to take you right to the root of your problem, they say that that man's a hate teacher. So what he's saying still holds true today. It says, if I ask, why should the senators in Washington, and then again, if we tell you that Negro are being hung on the tree or being shot down illegally, unjustly, and those Negroes should do something to protect themselves, you say you're advocating violence. The white man is tricking you. He's trapping you. He doesn't call it violence when he lands troops in South Vietnam. Same thing holds true today. When our people are still getting shot down in the streets by the police, our people are still shooting each other down. People being attacked verbally, physically, you know what I mean? Just in a restaurant, trying to take a train, trying to get on an airplane, standing in front of your own home. These things are still happening today. And they say that when we try to raise our people up, that we're advocating violence. But as he just said, the white man is tricking you, he's trapping you. He doesn't call it violence when he lands troops in South Vietnam, just like they're doing today. They don't call it violence when they're bombing Hamas over there.
Right.
All right. So nothing has changed. There's nothing new under the sun. You're seeing history constantly repeating itself. Then he says, please, please, please. He doesn't call it violence when he lands troops in Berlin. When the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, he didn't say get nonviolent. He said, praise the Lord, but pass the ammunition. But when someone attacks you, when someone comes at you with the club, when someone comes at you with the rope, when someone comes at you with the gun, despite the fact that you've done nothing, he tells you suffer peacefully. Pray for those who use you to spite me. Be long suffering. And how long can you suffer after suffering for 400 years? So I just want to play up that little point right there, because he said that we play on your emotions. And when you turn on your television tonight or your radio or read the newspaper, they're going to tell you in that paper that I was playing on your emotions. They're still using the media that way. Nothing's changed. Imagine you, a second-class citizen that's not getting emotional. It's getting intelligent. And as far as your mayor is concerned, IC should say their mayor, a man named Yordi, who has been slandering the Muslims, a professional liar, who has mastered the art of using half-truths, put in the paper that they break into our religious place of worship and got records that they can use to prove that most of us have criminal records. Isn't that the same thing they're doing with the Israelites today?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to come out and, trying to say that, oh, these guys, they're criminals, they got criminal records, they got criminal backgrounds. They're doing the same thing. Nothing's changed. You can't be a Negro in America and not have a criminal record. Martin Luther King has been to jail. James Farmer has been to jail. Why you can't name a black man in this country who was sick and tired of the HELL that he's catching who hasn't been to jail? Charged him with being seditious. They put Moses in jail. They put Daniel in jail. Why you haven't got a man of God in the Bible that wasn't put to jail when they start speaking up against exploitation and oppression? They charged Jesus with sedition. Didn't they do that? They said he was against Caesar. They said he was discriminating because he told his disciples, go not the way of the Gentiles, but rather go to the lost sheep. He discriminated. Don't go near the Gentiles. Go to the lost sheep. Go to the oppressed. Go the downtrodden. Go to the exploited. Go the people who don't know who they are, who are lost from the knowledge of themselves and who are strangers in a land that is not theirs. Go to those people, go to the slaves, go to the second-class citizens, go to the ones who are suffering the brunt of Caesar's brutality. It says, and if Jesus were here in America today, he wouldn't be going to the white man. The white man is the oppressor. He would be going to the oppressed. He would be going to the humble. He would be going to the lowly. He would be going to the rejected and the despised. He would be going to the so-called American Negro. But we understand today that he wouldn't just be going to the American Negro, he'd be going to the Hispanics and Native Americans also. That's who we're called to go to. Says, to have once been a criminal is no disgrace. To remain a criminal is the disgrace. I formerly was a criminal. I formerly was in prison. I'm not ashamed of that. You never can use that over my head. And he's using the wrong stick. I don't feel that stick. I went to prison because I believed in men like Sam Yorty. I went to prison because I trusted men like Sam Yorty. I went to prison following the philosophy of men like Sam Yorty. But since I've been following the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I've been reformed. And that's more than Sam Yorty and Chief Parker and all these other white politicians that have been able to do with the inmates in the prisons of the state. They should give Mr. Muhammad credit. They should give Mr. Muhammad credit for reforming and rehabilitating men whom they have failed to reform and rehabilitate. And the same thing rings true today. They should be giving credit to these Israelite leaders that are out here rehabilitating some of our young men, getting them out of gang banging, getting them out of drug dealing, getting them out of prison. You know what I mean? Turning them into fathers and husbands and responsible men, getting jobs, teaching them that we're the Israelites, teaching them God's commandments. They should be giving them credit for this, but are they doing it and are they gonna do it? No. Says Mayor Yorty went forward to some press report that Mr. Muhammad had once been found guilty of contributing to the delinquency of a minor. He failed to explain purposely that in 1934, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad refused to send his children to white schools in Detroit, Michigan that were teaching you about little black Sambo. That's the minor that he contributed to the delinquency of. You see, this vicious fork-tongued white man has been able to take lies and make you turn against those who want to help you and make others turn against you. And they're still doing the same thing today. Nothing's changed. It says this is the contributing to the delinquency of a minor that this mayor or a man who calls himself mayor is talking about. In the same article, he said that the Muslims are the same people who rioted in the United Nations. Someone should pull his coat and let him know that at the present moment, there's $6 million worth of suits leveled against two of New York's leading newspapers for making a mistake of charging the Muslims as being involved in those United Nations riots. We were not involved. And if this fork-tongued man who called himself your mayor had taken the time to find that out, he wouldn't be walking into the trap that he's letting his ignorance lead him into. And if you take the time to read the Washington Post that came out the Sunday after that incident took place, the Washington Post pointed out on the front page that the Muslims had nothing to do with the UN riots. And they quoted in saying so the person who was at the time the commissioner of police in New York City. See, it's lies that the white men have spread about the Muslims to try and make you afraid of the Muslims, or to try and make you think that the Muslims were a criminal element, an uncouth element in things that you have not liked to be associated with. Also, they say that I'm just clearing these things up, and then we're going to get into what happened. They also say that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was a draft dodger. No, he wasn't. He just refused to go to the army because he was a man of peace. He was a minister of religion of peace. He was teaching peace. So he outright refused to go to the army. That's not draft dodging. That's intelligence. Here, before the grand jury, because the coroner's jury is stacked against Negroes, the grand jury is stacked against Negroes, the press, the radio, the television, the newspapers are stacked against Negroes. But please, the Los Angeles Police Department is stacked against all Negroes, all except those he has appointed to high positions. The controlled press, the white press, inflames the white public against Negroes. They're still doing it today. Nothing's changed. The police are able to use it to paint the Negro community as a criminal element. The police are able to use the press to make the white public think that 90% or 99% of the Negroes in the Negro community are criminals. And once the white public is convinced that most of the Negro community is a criminal element, then this automatically paves the way for the police to move into the Negro community, exercising Gestapo tactics, stopping any black man who is in this on the sidewalk, whether he is guilty or whether he is innocent, whether he is well-dressed or whether he is poorly dressed, whether he is educated or whether he is dumb, whether he's a Christian or whether he's a Muslim. As long as he is a black and a member of the Negro community, the white public thinks that the white policeman is justified in going in there and trampling on that man's civil rights and on that man's human rights. Once the police have convinced the white public that the so-called Negro community is a criminal element, they could go in and question, brutalize, murder unarmed, innocent Negroes, and the white public is gullible enough to back them up. You see that still going on today. Did we have not too long ago a young black man going jogging in the white community, and these white men pulled up in their trucks and he got shot and killed struggling with the gun from these men because he was afraid, because he was jogging in their community? Says this makes the Negro community a police state. This makes the Negro neighborhood a police state. It's the most heavily patrolled. It has more police in it than any other neighborhood. Yet it has more crime in it than any other neighborhood. How can you have more cops and more crime? It shows you that the cops must be in cahoots with the criminals. the texture of the hair that God pleased, that God gave them, so much that they put lie on it. Do you realize now, brother, lie will eat a hole in steel, and your head is not that hard? Our people are still putting chemicals in their hair.
Mm-hmm.
Says, who taught you, please? Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Isn't that what our people are doing today? They're doing it even more so today. More of our people are bleaching their skin so that they can lighten their skin, especially among celebrities. It says, who taught you to hate the shape of your nose? How many of our people are going out getting nose jobs now? And the shape of your lips. Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to, so much so that you don't want to be around each other? Before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask who taught you to hate? Being what God gave you. We teach you to love the hair that God gave you. Here you way out in the middle of the ocean, can't swim, and you worried about someone that's in the bathtub and can't swim. We don't steal, we don't gamble, we don't lie, and we don't cheat. And that also deprives the government of revenue, because you can't get into a whiskey bottle without getting past the government seal. You can't open a deck of cards without getting past the government seal. HELL, the white man makes the whiskey, then puts you in jail for getting drunk. He sells you the cards and the dice and puts you in jail when he catches you using them. So he's against us because we fix it where he can't catch you anymore. We take the dice out of your hands and the cards out of your hands and the whiskey out of your hand. The most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman. And as Muslims, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us to respect our women and to protect our women. Isn't that what the Bible teaches us as Israelites? Okay. It says, and the only time a Muslim really gets real violent is when someone goes to molest his woman. We will kill you for our woman. I'm making it plain. Yes, we will kill you for our woman. We believe that if the white man will do whatever is necessary to see that his woman gets respect and protection, then you and I will never be recognized as men until we stand up like men and place the same penalty over the head of anyone who puts his filthy hands in the direction of our women. But what has happened today? They have actually basically used us against our women against us. Haven't you should see the articles and the interviews that some of these rap artists do today, where they actually have coming out as saying that they are paid more by the record labels to put out this kind of music that defames our women, that talks down about our women, that treats this criminal element in the music. They get paid more by the record companies to do it. So has anything changed? Nothing's changed. We're still being taught to hate ourselves. And here in the 21st century, it is even more so amongst our people, this self-hatred. It says, we respect them, but we want them to respect us. We think that the law should respect the Negro community. The law should protect the Negro community. The law should approach the Negro community with intelligence if it expects the Negro community to react intelligently. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us to always avoid anything that smacks of disrespect for the law. And if the police department tells the truth, the will have to admit that they have never had any experiences with Muslims that have ever been anything other than honorable, unless they themselves come at us in a dishonorable way. There's no case against the Muslims. And the same thing, we as Israelites.
Right.
How can they say anything derogatory about us if we're not out there acting in a derogatory way? If we're not acting in a criminal way? Says it has no case against these brothers whom they shot down. And because it has no case, it's trying to create a case. It's trying to manufacture a case. And therefore, they set up a grand jury hearing of the case so that they could hear it behind closed doors. And after hearing what we have to say, then their particular strategy or defense against the actions they committed on that April the 27th. So at the advice of our attorneys, we purposefully, The victims, those who have been indicted, or rather those who have been arrested and are out on bond, have purposely refrained and refused from making any statement whatsoever until after the case appears in court. And when you hear their story, it will be in a public trial. We have already had experience with these private hearings behind closed doors. Anything that the white man has to do to the Muslim, he has to do it in the open. He has to do it in public, or he has to put every single one of us behind bars for the rest of our lives. When Mayor Yorty called for a government investigation of a religious group that have the highest moral standards of any group in the Negro community, Mayor Yorty was giving you an example of what Hitler did in Nazi Germany when he began to go on the rampage. But who should actually be the groups that have the highest moral standards of any group in the Negro community? Should be the Israelites, correct?
Right.
Is that happening? No, not at all. He says, we feel we have confidence that the white public and the black public, if they hear our case, if they hear and have access to the investigation, will never be fooled by this phony setup that's stacked from the top all the way down. And if you doubt it, when you leave home tonight, when you go home tonight, look for the press. I like at this time to call forth these brothers who were arrested. The brothers who were arrested, come up here behind these chairs, please. They were suspects. This wouldn't happen in a white neighborhood. White man can walk down the street with packages on his head, packages under his arm, and packages anywhere else, and won't anybody question his right to carry those packages. But a Negro is suspect because the press makes you suspect. And that's the same thing. Don't you hear the stories about Amazon drivers, UPS drivers, FedEx drivers that are black that are in certain neighborhoods just trying to deliver their packages to a certain home, and neighbors that come out the house, what are you doing here? It is like, I'm working. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It says, yes, the white press makes Negroes suspect. All the information you need, officer. And the officer made one stay at the rear of the car and the other go to the front of the car. And while he was taking the one to the front of the car, the polite attitude, the humble, the submissive, intelligent, peaceful spirit that he unexpectedly found in this Negro infuriated him. And he told the brother, put down your hands. Brother was talking. He's not a criminal. A man has a right on the sidewalk to talk with his hands. Put down your hands. Don't talk with your hands. And when the brother continued to gesture with his hands, the officer grabbed his hand, twisted it around behind his back, flung him up against the car. And then that's when HELL broke loose. That was when the HELL broke loose. A struggle ensued. Shots were fired by the police and by a Negro door shaker. An alarm went out. When the alarm went out, instead of the police going to the place where the incident occurred, the police went 1 block away to the temple. When they arrived there, they got out of their cars with their guns smoking. You would have thought it was Wyatt Earp. I'm telling you, they came out of those cars, and we have enough witnesses to hang them with their guns smoking. Chief Parker knows this. Mayor Yorty knows this. And every police official in the city knows that. They didn't fire no warning shots in the air. They fired warning shots point blank at innocent, unarmed, defenseless Negroes. As I say, 2 of the brothers were shot in the back. Another was shot in the shoulder. Another was shot. 2 of them were shot, excuse the expression, through the penis. Another was shot in the hip, and the bullet came out the other side. But Arthur here was shot 1/4 of an inch from his heart. Let me tell you something, and I'll tell you why you say we hate white people. We don't hate anybody. We love our own people so much they think we hate the ones who are inflicting injustice against them. Same thing today. It's not that we hate the white man or we hate him. We just love our people so much that it may appear that we hate the other nations, even though God hates the other nations. Says, who has been shot, the bullet having passed 1/4 of an inch through his heart. I'm not going to let him talk, which I think you can understand why. You should listen to the conversation of the police officers while it was going on. 2 of the brothers who had been shot, who were lying hand in hand, the officer said they were chanting a death chant. You read that. They were saying Allahu Akbar. What does that mean? It means that God is the greatest. It means that God is the greatest. Understand what the white officer called the death chant was a prayer. They were praying when they were shot down. They were saying Allahu Akbar. And it shook the officer up that they haven't heard black people talk any kind of talk but what they taught them. And two of the brothers who were shot in the back were telling me that as they lay on the sidewalk, they were holding hands. They held hands with each other, saying "Allahu Akbar," and the blood was seeping out of them where the police bullets had torn into their insides. Still, they said "Allahu Akbar," and the police came and kicked them in the head. Police kicked them in the head, telling them to shut up that noise while they were laying on the sidewalk in front of our temple. Kicked them in the head. Shut up that noise. And one of them, when he was on his way to the police station, the ambulance attendants told the white cop, "Why don't you kill the nigger?" He said, "I'll tell them that he tried to get away. Why don't you kill the nigger while you got a chance? I'll swear that he tried to get away. If he didn't say this, then I need to be put in jail and I'll gladly go." One of them, who was being taken to jail in a police car as the ambulance sirens were coming to the place, one of the policemen said to the other, "What are the ambulance rushing for?" "Nothing but some niggers." So he looked then and saw the Muslim brother sitting beside him, and he shut up. But after he got to the jail, the same officer that said this turned to the brother and said, "I hope that you didn't get offended by what I said back there under the heat of emotion, because some of my best friends are colored." Always the case. That's what he said. That's his password. Some of my best friends are colored. You still hear that today. And I, for one, as a Muslim, believe that the white man is intelligent enough if he were made to realize how black people really feel and how fed up we are without that whole compromising sweet talk. Why you're the one that make it hard for yourself. The white man believes you when you go to him with that old sweet talk, because you've been sweet talking ever since he brought you here. Stop sweet talking him. Tell him how you feel. Tell him how or what kind of HELL you've been catching, and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, he shouldn't have a house. It should catch on fire and burn down. As Muslims, we identify ourselves with the dark world, so we're not any minority. We are part of the majority. And the white man is the minority. You have to know this to understand us. We don't think any odds are against us. We don't fight a battle like the odds are against us. Why the whole dark world today is in unity. It's one. If you don't think so, look at the United Nations. When the dark world votes, they vote as one. They get in the colonists out of Africa and out of Asia, telling them to get out. They don't have any nuclear weapons, but they got a solid united voice, and their unity alone is sufficient. All right, let me read that again. It says, telling them get out. They don't have any nuclear weapons, but they got a solid united voice, and their unity alone is sufficient. That's what should be going on amongst the Israelites. We don't have any nuclear weapons. The weapons of warfare are not carnal. We should be having one solid, united voice. And what should that voice be? That voice that they should be hearing is the voice of the Lord, the word of the Lord. Coming from who? The men of the Lord. In what? In unity. It says united voice, and their unity alone is sufficient to drive the oppressor and exploiter of their people out of their own country. You and I need to learn a lesson from that right there. Yeah, we today need to learn a lesson from it. It says in the UN, the dark world consists of Buddhists, Hindus, Shintos, Taoists, Christians, Muslims, everything. But they are together. They forget their religious and political differences. They think as one. They move as one against a common enemy. And of Algeria, he's going. Don't think he's not going. He's going. They're getting him out of Angola, out of Tanganyika, out of Angola, out of Uganda, out of Kenya. He's coming from South Africa too. He hasn't got long to be there. All over this earth, dark people who have been oppressed and exploited by those who are not their own kind, strangers are coming together to get the oppressor off their back. You and I learn a lesson from that. We are oppressed, we are exploited, we are downtrodden. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights. So the only way we're going to get some of this oppression, exploitation away from us or aside from us is come together against the common enemy. When they sat down at the Bandung conference, everyone there had this in common: a dark skin. Some of those who were sitting there were socialists, some were communists, some were capitalists, some were Christians, some were Buddhists. They were everything, but all of them was dark skin. And they looked at the dark skin and agreed that this is one thing they had in common. Forget that you're Methodist, forget that you're a Catholic, forget that you're a Protestant, forget that you're a Muslim. Remember that all of us are black. and we're catching HELL. All right. So you can go and look this up. Malcolm X's speech on Who Hate You to Taught Yourself. Very powerful. But that's the thing we got to look at. We're going to get into this later on in the lesson. The Making of a Slave by Willie Lynch, and some other things. All right. Let me stop sharing. But we have to come to understand what is it that has taught us as so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to hate ourselves and to hate each other. These differences that have been pushed among us, among the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans in the media, their television, the radio, especially now the internet, social media, and that's one of the things I want people to understand is that a lot of people didn't understand what Facebook was really doing and how we ended up in today's society where um, people are so divided racially. People are surprised that this has happened. I'm not surprised by it because if you had been paying attention, if you had been awake, you would have been able to see how Facebook was being used to racially divide people. People never took the time to actually pay attention to it. When MySpace came out, MySpace was a social media platform that if you had a MySpace page, anybody and everybody would come to your page.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I mean? It, all races, nationality, everybody, they came to the page, they subscribed, they listened, and you didn't see the same thing with Facebook. The way Facebook was marketed was that you have the ability to lock out those people you don't want on your page. This is for friends and family and people of your peer group. And that's how it started on the college campuses. Because remember, that's where Facebook started. It started on the college campuses. When you started to look at Facebook, and if it was someone white, and you go and look at their friend group, what would you see in their friend group? Whether they had 10 people in their friend group or 5,000 people in their friend group, what was the majority of their friend group made up of? 99.999% white people. If they were Asian, you look at their Facebook page, it was made up of 99.999% Asian people. When you look at somebody who was black's page, their page would be made up of 99.99% black people. And you could go on down the list of all the different ethnic groups and you would see the same thing. I saw it a long time ago. I was like, man, why does it seem like Facebook is being used more to divide people among racial lines and people don't even see it? That when they're looking at their friend group, that this is who I associate with. Basically, I'm not letting you blacks on my page. I'm not letting you Asians on my page unless they had that one token black friend or a co-worker or
Mm-hmm.
something that they added on there. But the majority, it was all divided. It was all, you know what I mean, racially segregated, and nobody had ever paid attention to it. And then now here it is, how many years after Facebook has been started, that you see all this racial tension going on across the world, and people are acting surprised that it's going on. It's like, no, you've been being conditioned for this for a while through social media, and you didn't realize it. Starting with Facebook. And if you don't believe me, if anybody, I don't have a Facebook, but if anybody's got a Facebook, go on Facebook and look, and you will see what I'm talking about. And Lord willing, that light bulb clicks in your head and you'd be like, oh, wow, now I understand. Okay. So, um, with our people, we've allowed ourselves to not only just be divided from the other nations, which we're supposed to be. Why are we supposed to be divided from the other nations? Because God told us to. Grab that. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verses 1 through 5.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7 and verse 1. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and hath cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Ammonites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughters thou shalt not give unto his sons, nor his daughters shalt thou take unto thy sons. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you, and destroy thee suddenly. But thus shall ye deal with them. Ye shall destroy their altars, and break down their images, and cut down their groves, and burn their graven images with fire.
All right. So we were told not to make um, marriages with them. We were not to make any kind of agreements with them. All right. Um, but yet, today, what have our people done? We've completely disregarded, just as our forefathers did in the past. We've completely disregarded what he told us. You know, he told us not to make any covenant with these other nations. But our people continually disregard what the Most High told us. We were supposed to be separate from the other nations. We were separated from the very beginning. Grab that in Exodus 33. I think it's verse 12. And read through. Let me look for it. Hold on. Yeah, verse 16. Actually, verse 17. Verse 17. Hold on, because you went quiet. I don't know if you you went muted somehow.
The book of Exodus, chapter 33, and verse 12. And Moses said unto the Lord, See, thou sayest unto me, Bring up this people, and thou hast not let me know whom thou wilt send with me. Yet thou hast said, I know thee by name, and thou hast also found grace in my sight. Now therefore I pray thee, if I have found grace in thy sight, show me now thy way, that I may know thee, that I may find grace in thy sight. And consider that this nation is thy people. And he said, My presence shall go with thee, and I will give thee rest. And he said unto him, If thy presence go not with me, carry us not up hence. For wherein shall it be known here that I and thy people have found grace in thy sight? Is it not in that thou goest with us? So shall we separate
I'll
I
read that
and thy
again. Read it again.
um so shall we be separated, I and thy people, from all the people that are upon the face of the earth. And the Lord said unto Moses, I will do this thing also that thou hast spoken, for thou hast found grace in my sight, and I know thee by name.
So the Most High said, you know what? I will give you what you asked for. Moses asked for the Lord to separate his people from all the other nations of the earth. Let me read that again. It says, So shall we be separated, I and thy people, from all the people that are upon the face of the earth. That's what makes us holy to the Lord. He separated us from the very beginning from all the other nations of people. So the mistake that Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and many of our leaders back during the times of the civil rights movement made was that they were trying to integrate us. At one point, Malcolm X, when he was with the Nation of Islam, he was for that separation. But once he took the trip to Mecca, once he left the Nation of Islam and he came back, his tone changed to where he was now preaching inclusivity rather than us being separated or being excluded or exclusive. He completely changed. And that was because he went to Mecca around, did his pilgrimage, and he was there with all these, Muslims, and came back to the U.S. and started preaching more of unity among all people and races and things like that. But in reality, the Bible teaches us Israelites, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, that we are supposed to be separated from the other nations. But in so doing, because we're supposed to be above all the other nations of the earth, they want to keep us divided so that we can never actually know that we're above the other nations of the other people of the earth. Go to Deuteronomy 7:6. They want to hide this fact from us.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7 and verse 6. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God had chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
And that's what makes us a holy people, the fact that we are separate people. We are separated from the other nations of the world by the Most High. He chose us. He says that the Lord thy God had chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So they got to keep us divided so that we can never come to the understanding that we are above all people on the earth. That's why they talk that talk you hear of all inclusive, all nations being the same, everybody's equal, when they know that that's not true. There is no way in the world everyone could ever be equal, because the Bible doesn't teach that equality. There's no such thing as equality amongst the people in the Bible. All right. Grab Deuteronomy 14:2.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 14 and verse 2. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord had chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself, above all the nations that are upon the earth.
So in this one, he said that we're supposed to be above all the nations of the earth. Deuteronomy 7:6, he said that we're supposed to be above all people on the face of the earth. So he covers both bases. So what has happened to us that if we're supposed to be above all the nations, how did we become subject to the other nations? What happened to us that we are now in a land that's not ours and nationally separated from one another? Um, and in being separated, now we look at each other as enemies. We have no unity. We are divided. We have a hatred towards each other, fighting towards each other. Um, we've got to go back into the history of our nation, the nation of Israel, to find out how this happened. All right. Um, how did the Hispanics become separated from what we call the so-called blacks today, the Native Americans and Hispanics? How did that happen? That today we're trying to bring our people together, but there's more hatred and tension between the blacks and Hispanics than there ever had been. All right, I'll show you. Let me do this. Let me share my screen again. Let me know you can see.
It's coming.
So this is an article that was written. This was back in July 2005, but it still rings true today. And guess who wrote this article? The Friendly Neighborhood SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, back in 2005. What is the article? Tensions mounting between blacks and Latinos nationwide. So here we are, close to 20 years later, and it's even worse. So it says, around the country, evidence of a growing divide between blacks and Hispanics is mounting. It's a split few want to discuss. Let me read that again. It's a split few want to discuss. So they're even calling it a split. Why would they call it a split? If we're different people, meaning that we were never together, how could we split? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Says one after another, the reports have rolled in from Florida to California, Nevada to New Jersey, even as far away as the state of Washington. The news is getting harder to ignore. There's trouble brewing between blacks and browns. At Hug High School in Reno, Nevada, an emergency task force began work last October after a series of fights between black and Hispanic students that interim school superintendent Paul Dugan said reflected definite racial tensions. In Monroe, Washington, similar tensions shot up after a Mexican flag was torn down and thrown into a bathroom and several off-campus fights broke out. In Chicago, 7 students were arrested after an interracial brawl in January left teachers and security guards injured and parents complaining of mounting racial strife. But it was in schools in California where so many of the nation's trends first take shape that this disturbing conflict was most obvious. On November 8th, hundreds of black and Latino students got into 2 separate battles in the streets around Wilmer Amina Carter High School in Rialto. 2 days later, another interracial fight broke out on campus, and 4 days after that, a huge battle erupted in the lunchroom, leaving 57 of the hundreds of students involved injured. At around the same time, more than 20 police officers broke up a series of street fights between black and Latino students outside Fremont High School in Oakland that involved as many as 150 participants and bystanders. In San Jacinto, a riot at San Jacinto High School between black and Hispanic students resulted in 3 arrests, 6 suspensions, and the lockdown of 1,700 students. Some 500 students were involved in the fight, and police reported some arriving parents added fuel to the fire by shouting racial slurs and urging their children to keep up the battle. Similar racial conflicts hit Crenshaw, Manual Arts, and Jordan High Schools in Los Angeles. Traditionally, the presumed alliance. Traditionally, black and brown activists have seen themselves in a natural alliance in a country historically dominated by whites, an alliance of mostly poor, darker-skinned minorities whose struggles are not dissimilar. But like the Civil Rights era alliance between blacks and Jews, the black and brown coalition has grown more and more strained. Many blacks resent what is seen as Hispanics leapfrogging them up the social economic ladder, and some complain of the skin color prejudices that are particularly strong in some Hispanic countries, notably Mexico. Just this May, the Reverend Al Sharpton bitterly demanded that Vicente Fox apologize after the Mexican president made what some blacks interpreted as a racist comment. Similarly, many Hispanics say they are treated in racist ways by blacks, some of whom have apparently singled out undocumented immigrants for robbery and worse. The conflict is growing as mainly Hispanic immigrants, legal and illegal, pour into neighborhoods that were in many cases previously dominated by blacks. Many blacks say Hispanics generally will not hire blacks in their businesses. Even though many cater to black customers, many Hispanics say they are being targeted for robbery by blacks who pick on undocumented workers, a group far less likely to report crimes to police. Both groups worry about the implications of blacks' 2002 displacement as the largest minority in America for the first time in history. Nicholas Vaca, author of The Presumed Alliance, The Unspoken Conflict Between Latinos and Blacks and What It Means for America, said black radio talk show hosts have been hot to discuss his 2004 book. Most thought that it was time that someone spoke about the elephant in the room, Vaca told the intelligence report. The elephant reappeared in the halls of Jefferson High School in South Los Angeles this April 14th. A minor spat exploded in a lunchtime melee involving about 50 Latino and 50 black students. 4 days later, police were sent in for a second time, this time to quell a battle involving some 200 students. 2 students were arrested, 4 detained, and 6 hurt in minor ways. One broke a hip. Officials changed school schedules to keep the factions more separated. Metal detectors were installed. The Nation of Islam official offered protection to black students. Mayoral candidate Antonio Villaraigosa even addressed a forum call to discuss the strife, begging parents to model for these young black and brown unity. It didn't happen. Less than a week later, a rumor that a violent Hispanic gang would be exacting retribution from black students the next day coursed through the school district. In the end, an astonishing 51,000 students stayed home. Sizing up the elephant, he's talking about that elephant in the room, that these tensions have been brewing. Says tensions between blacks and Latinos are certainly not new. They have surfaced in major ways in Miami, where a relatively wealthy class of Cuban exiles has won far more political power than the city's blacks, and Houston, where blacks and Latinos have often been on opposite sides of political races. There will be a libertarian in the White House before there is a black-brown coalition in Houston, Orlando Sanchez, who lost a close 2001 mayoral race to a black candidate, Riley told the Houston Chronicle this spring. While the recent school conflicts have brought the issue to the fore, some writers have been trying to point it out for years. In 1992, Jack Miles wrote a long essay about race in Los Angeles for the Atlantic Monthly magazine, Blacks versus Browns. He was one of the first to describe competition for jobs, suggesting Hispanics were gaining the upper hand. People need to understand, because I still hear people talk about that today. I still hear some black people, oh man, these Mexicans are taking all our jobs. They taking off. And I have to correct a lot of people. Be like, brother, listen to me. Do you not realize those are your brothers? Those are your people. The fact that they are getting these jobs and we're not, it's not their fault. This is being orchestrated by our oppressors on purpose to make you feel exactly the way you feel. And you cannot allow him to do that. And then they think about it, oh, bro, you're right. Yeah, I never thought of it that way. But a lot of our people haven't, because it's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. But you still hear black people today complaining about how, our so-called brown brothers and sisters are taking the jobs from them. It says America's older black poor and newer brown poor are on a collision course, he wrote. In 1995, Dallas Morning News columnist Richard Estrada, noting conflicts between blacks and Hispanics over hiring practices at a public hospital, warned of contentiousness between the two groups that seems destined to grow. And 3 years after that, a book called Neighborhood Voices chronicled the feelings of black and Latino residents in northeast central Durham, North Carolina, where Hispanic immigration had transformed a formerly black part of the city. Many of the voices from both communities were remarkably bitter in their assessments. And also, again, these books that are being mentioned, look them up online and order them. Read them. You know what I mean? Educate yourself on these topics and understand why this stuff is happening to our people. There's so much information, we can't bring it all out. You're very limited in what you can bring out in these classes. It says many of the voices from both communities were remarkably bitter in their assessments. But it was an article in the Charlotte Post, a newspaper in North Carolina that caters to black readers, that may have most starkly described the conflict. Published in March 2001, When Worlds Collide, Blacks Have Reservations About Influx of Hispanic Immigrants. Is it the same thing happening today? Here it is 20 years later, and here black people still saying the same thing. Oh man, they're bringing all these immigrants all up here. They're housing them over here, giving them a place to stay. They're giving them money, and it's like, bro, those are your people. Again, you got to educate them. These are who they are, and this is being done on purpose to make you feel the way you're feeling. Don't let them do it. It says, quoted a whole series of racist comments about Hispanics from blacks in the city. Writer Artelia Burks dispelled in no certain terms notions that blacks necessarily felt empathetic toward the struggles of Latinos. Emails and letters poured in. Fox News sent a camera crew. Post publisher Gerald Johnson felt compelled to defend his reporter's story, suggesting it showed that racism is systemic and blacks were no different than anybody else. That wasn't enough for many. BlackPressUSA.com removed the story from its website, saying it didn't condone stereotyping. Raul Izagirre, the president of the National Council of La Raza, called on black leaders to denounce the story in the strongest possible terms. Earlier, however, Izagirre had co-authored a calmer paper on Black-Hispanic relations that concluded that growing tension between the two communities threatens the ability of blacks and Hispanics to develop strong, sustainable coalitions. All the others also attacked the Charlotte Post piece, and we see that happening. Um, a lot of Hispanics don't want to have anything to do with the blacks. A lot of the blacks don't want to have anything to do with Hispanics. And unfortunately, we try and come to them to teach them about being an Israelite and that we are the Israelites, that we're God's people and that we're to keep God's commandments and that we're supposed to unite together. Some of them don't want to hear it. Remember at one time, this was years ago, that we were in Stockton at the Walmart shop. We were handing out the flyers, and
Mm-hmm.
went to the window of that one brother. That brother said, "Well, they were Mexican," and went to hand them a flyer. And at first, they were all excited, like, "Oh!" And then they looked at the flyer, like, "Are you guys those people that say the white man is the devil?"
Right.
He's like, "Why? Why do you ask that?" "Well, we just want to know, are you guys the ones that teach that, the white man is the devil, that they're wicked?" And we're like, "Well, that's what the Bible says." And they rolled the window and drove, like
Yep.
rolled it up and looking at each other like, "Really?
Yep.
Really?" But that's what happens. A lot of our people have been brainwashed here in America that they don't want to have nothing to do with the truth. You know what I mean? And it's going to be a hard job for us to teach our people and convince our people that we are supposed to come together, because they always worry about Esau. It's always the white man. Why do we got to hate the white man? Why do we have, like, nobody said you have to hate the white man. We're just telling you that you need to love your own man. You need to love the black man. You need to love the so-called Hispanic man, the Native American man, before you love anybody else. That's what we're trying to show you out of the scriptures. We're not telling you to hate nobody.
Right.
But unfortunately, through media, that's what they've pushed. And I'm going to show you in a second. It says, early on in his book project, Baca learned just how controversial the topic of black and brown relations was and how incendiary. Merely discussing the project with two attorney friends ended a friendship as one stormed out of a restaurant. You see this stuff happening. Are, people on both sides, the blacks, the browns, the Hispanics, the so-called African American, whatever title you want to put on them. Southern Kingdom, Northern Kingdom is what I'll use. A lot of them don't want to hear. A lot of them want to stay in disunity. Says, why dig up dirt, ruffle feathers, destroy the illusion of unbroken unity between blacks and Latinos? Because that's what it is. It's an illusion of unbroken unity because it's very broken. You're delusional to think that it's not broken. But as long as it's not talked about, you can get to continue living under the illusion that we're united. As long as we agree to disagree and stay out of each other's way is basically what it comes down to. No different than a black group and a Hispanic group on the prison yard. We can get along as long as we stay out of each other's business. We stay out of each other's way. That's what's going on. It says, bleeding the colors of the Rainbow Coalition by giving the dreaded gringo the ammunition my former friend told me I was providing. A dispirited Vaca wrote, the simple answer is the ethnic landscape has changed. The intelligence report found the same reluctance to discuss the issue. Although the magazine contacted numerous black and brown thinkers and scholars to comment on the matter, virtually none would talk about it publicly. Let's see how much. All right, this is I forgot the article is long. So we probably won't go through all of it. If you get a chance, go to the SBOC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and look up this article because it's on there. All right. Um, Basically, bringing this up to show you that there is a divide among our people, and it's turning into physical altercations, verbal altercations, where this violence is starting to grow and grow and grow amongst our people, and it needs to stop. I'll just read some of this part real quick. Robbery, racism, and reaction. Last summer in the region around Plainfield, New Jersey, the New York Times reported that at least 17 Hispanic men were severely beaten by young black men, and in one case killed. Some black leaders said they believed the attacks were about money, not bias, and there was no consensus among police as to the motive. But the violence of the attacks seemed excessive even when money was taken, a classic hallmark of a hate crime rather than simple robbery. To hit someone with a baseball bat, you have to hate someone, Michael Parenti, chief of the North Plainfield Police Department, told the newspaper. To beat a guy for a few dollars never made a lot of sense to me. It looked to me like a bias incident. Unfortunately, available hate crime statistics are not much help in trying to gauge conflict between blacks and Hispanics. While national figures show around 100 black and Hispanic hate crimes for each of several recent years, there is virtually no doubt that that number vastly understates the violence. Moreover, the FBI has no similar statistics that would cast light on Hispanic violence against blacks. They have statistics, they're lying. They got
Right.
statistics on everything under the sun, and they're going to try and lie and say they don't have statistics on that. They got them. They're just not going to share them because they want us to keep hating and killing each other. That's what it comes down to. It says the most that can be said is that these types of hate crimes seem anecdotally to be rising. Last September, a similar series of attacks broke out on the streets of Jacksonville, Florida. Again, it was hard to say definitively if robbery or hate was the main motivation for these crimes. What was clear was that in at least 28 different assaults, the perpetrators were black and the 68 victims Hispanic. 2 people were murdered, while another 8 people were shot or survived their wounds. The Hispanic community, about 8% of Jacksonville's population, was outraged. The local Spanish language paper demanded an investigation. A press conference was held, and rumors of Hispanic retribution ran rampant. A man named Nicholas is one of the victims. Last fall, Nicholas and his father were robbed by a black man with a gun who walked into the family restaurant they were preparing to open. Nicholas says he's not a racist, but the steady stream of young black men who walk through his parking lot on their way to and from local low-income housing has him concerned. And after the attack on him, once he got past his depression, he bought a gun. There are good Morenos, blacks, but there are also some that live off the government welfare or disability without working, he says. The vast majority of Morenos are hard workers, but the rest of them want to live for free. So you can see these attitudes that our people have picked up against, towards each other. It's not by accident. All right. So what we got to do is we've got to educate our people. We've got to teach them that we are the Israelites. We've got to teach them God's commandments. We've got to teach them God's laws. We got to teach them our history. We got to teach them our heritage. All right. Because the very people that have put this article out on their website are the very people that when we're out here as Israelites trying to teach our people, to get our people out of this situation, to bring unity to our people, what do? They do this. Let me know when you can see it.
There it is.
Can you see it? All
Yeah.
right. So this is the SPLC. They have the Israelites on their platform, on their website, as what? a SPLC designated hate group. They've changed the name. You would have gone back some months back and years back when they first started putting the Israelites on here, they were calling us Black Hebrew Israelites. But now they've kind of changed their tune a little bit. I'm trying to figure out why. They've taken the list of Israelite camps. I can't find it anymore. They've taken the list of Israelite camps off, but they're being slick about it by bringing quotes from certain Israelite camps or camp leaders and putting it in their article. All right, so now instead they've changed the names from Black Hebrew Israelites to now they're calling us Radical Hebrew Israelites. All right, so let's look at this. So these very same people that put this article on that we were just reading about the tensions between blacks and Hispanics, as if they actually care about it, are the same people that when we're trying to be out here and bring our people together to stop the violence and the hatred and the disunity between the blacks and Hispanics, just like Malcolm X said, you're called emotional. You're called a hate group, or you're told you're teaching hate. And that's exactly what the SPLC, you can't have it both ways, SPLC. All right, so now they're calling us Radical Hebrew Israelites. Since the late 1960s, the Radical Hebrew Israelites ideology splintered to form increasingly anti-Semitic, anti-white, anti-LGBTQ, xenophobic, and misogynistic sect of groups who preach they and only they are the true Israelites of the Bible and perpetuate the anti-Semitic belief that so-called Jews have stolen their identity and birthright. Disclaimer: SPLC uses the term Radical Hebrew Israelite to differentiate from the greater Hebrew Israelite faith. Hebrew Israelites should not be confused with Black Jews or Jewish individuals of color. SPLC no longer refers to these groups as solely Black Hebrew Israelites. That's funny, right?
Right.
As there are Latin and indigenous members of these groups, and there are non-radical sects of the Hebrew Israelite faith who identify as Black Hebrew Israelites. So that lets you know they've been listening,
Right.
because there are certain groups and leaders that have come out and called them out that, hey, wait a minute, how are you calling us Black Hebrew Israelites when we've got Hispanics and Native Americans within our groups? So they definitely are watching and listening and are changing their tune. Like, okay, they've got other groups, intermixed with them. So, okay, we won't call them Black Hebrew Israelites anymore. It's funny. It's crazy. All right. It says the continued struggle of Black indigenous people of color, BIPOC. I guess that's their acronym for it, BIPOC, in America can find clear similarities in the narratives of Judaism, particularly the book of Exodus. Persecution, displacement, and enslavement mirror the BIPOC experience in many ways, both historically and systematically. So, what they're going to try and say is that it's the white people that the Bible is talking about, but the plight that we have gone through here in America, the blacks and Hispanics, kind of mirrors what the white man went through in the Bible. So that's why we can identify with it. Watch this, listen. It says here in America, for most of the Hebrew Israelite community, the similarity is a source of empowerment and not a cause for condemnation. For radical Hebrew Israelite groups, however, the similarities are used as the foundation for their anti Semitic beliefs. Radical Hebrew Israelites appropriate biblical Jewish heritage. So now they're trying to say we're the appropriators.
Wow.
It's funny, right? It says
Right.
radical Israelites appropriate biblical Jewish heritage to claim an exclusive identity as the true chosen people of God and decry Jews as the impostors and thieves. These groups seek a divine form of dominance rather than equity by declaring superiority over all other nations, biblical term for other races and ethnicity, and strict adherence to biblical literalism to legitimize their ideology. They spread their beliefs through street preaching, often verbally harassing, provoking, and shaming any non-Israelite and those of their own community who don't follow their beliefs. This can be harmful. LGBTQ plus people of color within their communities, especially black, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender individuals. Radical Hebrew Israelites have a definite abhorrence of relationships between Israelites and Caucasian people as they relate them to the devil. Not only does this ideology further marginalize members of their community, but it also parallels toxic power structures that are common on the far right. These anti Semitic beliefs influence the mainstream as well. In a 2020 episode of actor and comedians podcast, Cannon's Class, Cannon and his guest, Professor Griff, theorized that black people are the true Semitic people. Notice they say they theorized.
Mm.
Cannon claimed they, Jews, have taken our birthright. Neither Cannon or Griff are known to be members of any RHI group. At first it was BHI, Black Hebrew Israelites, but now it's RHI groups. This idea is at the core of radical Hebrew Israelites' beliefs. A shared view among groups is their claim that Jews are actively working to steal the identity of the Hebrew Israelites by any means necessary, which is going on today. That's why right now they are willing to start World War III over there. You got Russia over there talking about using nuclear bombs, all because they want to cover up their lie.
Mm.
Says Cannon and Griff also presented the idea that Jews control the media, specifically that all media is controlled by 6 major companies. They further insinuated that Jews were connected with these 6 companies. How is it insinuated when you could prove it? You know what I mean? It's like, come on. Cannon brought up the Rothschild conspiracy. Cannon followed up by denying these statements were hate. You can't be anti-Semitic when we are the Semitic people. When we are the same people who they want to be, that's our birthright. After being confronted over his comments, Cannon walked them back, saying, and that's the worst thing you can do. You said it, stand bold with it. But he walked them back, saying, I do not condone hate speech nor the spread of hateful rhetoric. The Black and Jewish communities have both faced enormous hatred, oppression, persecution, and prejudice for thousands of years, and in many ways have and will continue to work together to overcome these obstacles. He has committed to educating himself on anti-Semitism. You hear that? He has committed to educating himself on anti-Semitism. That's why you saw him sitting down with the rabbi,
right,
and learning anti-Semitism. In October 2022, Kyrie Irving, who until recently played for the NBA's Brooklyn Nets, shared a link to the anti-Semitic film Hebrews to Negroes. How is that suddenly an anti-Semitic film? I still haven't watched it. I haven't seen it. But how is it anti-Semitic? It says, with his 4.6 million followers on Twitter, the 2018 film promotes the core belief of radical Hebrew Israelites that modern Jews stole the religious identity of Black, Hispanic, and indigenous individuals who are purported to be the true and exclusive descendants of biblical Israelites. The film pushes enduring anti-Semitic tropes about Jewish power and Holocaust denial, arguing that the Jewish people distorted historical facts to conceal their nature and protect their status and power, which they did. When asked if he held anti-Semitic beliefs, Irving replied, I cannot be anti-Semitic if I know where I'm from. And that's what I was going to say earlier, but I knew I was going to read it later on, so I kind of stopped myself. But this is what Irving, he stated. And it's true. How could you be anti-Semitic if you know where you're from? You know that you're Semitic. So how can you be anti-Semitic? Irving's support for these beliefs and subsequent suspension emboldened radical Hebrew Israelite groups. Following Irving's return, hundreds of members of the RHI group, Israel United in Christ, gathered outside Barclays Center and chanted, "We are the real Jews," and distributing anti-Semitic literature. See, they're not going to talk about how they were actually reading the Bible.
Right.
They were actually showing through the scriptures that we are the true Israelites. but they're going to twist it as they always do, saying they were chanting, we are the, as if they were just out there on the microphone saying, we are the real Jews. We are the real Jews. And that's all they were saying. You know what I mean? And handing out flyers with anti-Semitic. It's like, come on, stop lying. It says Irving has since apologized for it in a joint statement with the Anti-Defamation League and the Brooklyn Nets. Yeah, because he wanted to get back out there on that court. That's all it came down to. He wanted to get out there on the court in their own words. So instead of having the list, now they've just got quotes from some of the different leaders and some of the members. So, but giving them a way that they can still name them. Says in their own words. So this is a quote from who? Commanding General Yohana in Black Watch. Says, and let me tell you something. Every black man should feel the attack and understand what it is now. You understand? Like, black men are under a spiritual demon attack. And the worst part is it is being disguised as civil rights. It is being disguised as equality. It is being disguised as everything that supposedly was given to us in the civil rights movement now has to apply to your sexual orientation. And yet it's really being used to destroy masculine black men. So this is being looked at as anti-LGBTQ. So this is from another ISUPK, this is from their headquarters, that they do nothing but find new and vindictive and manipulative ways to destroy the Lord's chosen people, man. And I'm talking about the LGBTQ community, man. I'm talking about homosexuality, man. You know, our people are teaching out in the streets.
Right.
It is a plague in the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian community. It is at an all-time high. It is terrible, man. I tell you, just broad right in your face. And the sad part is our brothers and sisters don't even understand how destructive the activity they are engaging in is. They don't understand how destructive their acts and their nasty, disgusting lusts are. It is near to genocide. It is a crafty genocide of a nation. So you can go on there. There's the more General Yohana. They got one from a member of IUIC. It says this was after harassing a young black man who was passing by September 26, 2021. It says, so Brother John and his partner here, if they continue being homosexuals, aka effeminates, the Most High God is going to kill them. We're not sugarcoating anything right now. I believe Black Lives Matter now, right? Because the devil's so tough up on this man. America, Babylon the Great is so tough on this young man. He's delusional. He believes a lie because it was a beautiful question. Do you believe in Black Lives Matter? Yeah, I do. Well, it takes a man and a woman to create a black life, right? You don't believe in Black Lives Matter. So, you know, this is another one from ISUPK. This one is from GMS Elder Tahar. Oh, they're mentioning some of the groups right here. So going to the background, it says the groups defined as radical Hebrew Israelites by the SPLC are a part of the One West or One West ideology formed in the 1960s by Abba Bivens and named after the street address of the original school in the Harlem neighborhood of New York City. Bivens called for the return to a more extreme adherence to a religious text. As this sect splintered, it gave rise to much of the hate-filled beliefs exhibited by radical Hebrew Israelites we list today. Among the most prominent groups, there is consensus in most beliefs, but they lack unity and often compete and slander each other. See, even the SPLC understands what is going on between our groups today. So if they can see it, you know the rest of the world can see it. Why can't our leaders? So I'm going to read that again. It says, as this sect splintered, it gave rise to much of the hate-filled beliefs exhibited by radical Hebrew Israelites we list today. Among the most prominent groups, there is consensus in most beliefs, but they lack unity and often compete and slander each other. But they lack unity and often compete and slander each other. Read it one more time for the hard of hearing. But they lack unity and often compete and slander each other. That's why the Most High told us that there be no divisions among you. We're not supposed to be competing against each other and slandering each other. We're not supposed to have this lack of unity among us. It says the most prominent groups are Israel United in Christ, led by Bishop Nathaniel Ben Israel, Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, ISUPK, led by General Yohana, Great Millstone GMS, led by Elder Tahar, and the Sakari, aka Exodus 17:15, led by Guerrilla Hebrew. They had more of them on there. It looks like they've taken some of these groups off. But again, you can go and read, like right here is talking about feminizing men, giving women too much power. They also rail against women who are independent and blame feminism for destroying black men's role in the family. They attack not only anyone who enters into interracial union, but also those who have mixed race children. So if you get a chance, go on the SPLC website and look this up. For sake of time, we don't have time to read all. I've got so much stuff already. We don't have time to read it all. But these are the same people that are trying to act concerned that there is a divide between blacks and Hispanics, and that it's brewing, and that it's getting worse and worse, and that the violence is escalating. Well, here we are almost 20 years later, and it's escalated to the point where it's out of control, and it's going to continue to escalate. But the very people who are out here trying to de-escalate it, you're calling them terrorists. You're calling them hate groups. You're undermining them. So how can we ever bring our people together in unity if you're playing both sides of the fence? You understand what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense at all. All right. So, oh man, I should have kept. Let me go back. I didn't mean to click off of it. Let me know when you're coming back.
It's coming back. And there it is.
All right, so here we are. So the lesson again for today is that there be no divisions among you. So we're going to just look up the word division real quick and get a definition of what that word actually means. Division: the action of separating something into parts, or the process of being separated. Dividing, breakup, severance, splitting, dissection, bisection. 2, disagreement between two or more groups, typically producing tension or hostility. Disunity, disunion, conflict, discord, disagreement. Are those things that they said we lack? We lack unity, right?
Mm-hmm.
The process or skill of dividing one number by another. No, we're not talking about mathematics here. All right. So we've got the understanding, we've got the definition of what division is. All right, so let's go to the book of First Kings. You're going to go to chapter 12. You're going to start at verse 1. So we're going to go back to the history. How did we, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, become divided as a nation? At one point in time, we were one nation. 12 tribes brought together as one nation of people, as the Israelites. So how did we split off into two different factions of what you see today? And actually more factions. We're just broken up into all kinds of splinter groups, thousands of little gang members, gang groups, and all kinds of stuff. All right. So you're going to read verse 1 through 33.
The book of First Kings, chapter 12 and verse 1. And Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel were come to Shechem to make him king. And it came to pass, when Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who was yet in Egypt, heard of it, for he was fled from the presence of King Solomon, and Jeroboam dwelt in Egypt.
So what's going on here is Rehoboam is the son of King Solomon. So after Solomon died, Rehoboam was going to become king of Israel. All right. Just read on.
Right, verse 3, that they sent and called him, and Jeroboam and all the congregation of Israel came and spake unto Rehoboam, saying, thy father made our yoke grievous. Now therefore make thou the grievous service of thy father, and his heavy yoke which he put upon us lighter, and we will serve thee.
So what is happening is, this representative of the 10 tribes of the Israelites came to him and said, hey, when your father was king, he made things hard on us. If when you become king, are you going to treat us better? Is basically what it came down, was what they're asking him. And they're saying, if you make it lighter, if you make things better for us, we'll serve you. But let's see what happens. Let's go to verse 5. Go ahead.
And he said unto them, depart yet for 3 days. I'm gonna read that again. And he said unto them, depart yet for 3 days, then come again to me. And the people departed.
So in other words, he's telling you, know what, give me a few days to think about this. Just go your way. Give me a few days. Let me think about it and come back again in 3 days. And so they all left. They agreed. Okay, that's what we'll do. Go ahead.
And King Rehoboam consulted with old men that stood before Solomon his father while he yet lived, and said, how do you devise that I may answer this people?
So he went to the elders, the ones that were there under his father when his father was king. And he asked them, okay, what do you guys think? What should I do? How should I answer them? And let's listen to the counsel that they gave him. Go ahead.
And they spake unto him, saying, if thou wilt be a servant unto this people this day, and will serve them, and answer them, and speak good words to them, then they will be thy servant forever.
They told him, be good to them, speak good to them, and they'll want to follow you. But let's see what he did. Go ahead.
But he forsook the counsel of the old men.
He did what?
He forsook the counsel of the old men,
He forsook the counsel of the old men. In other words, he didn't listen. Go ahead.
which they had given him, and consulted with the young men that were grown up with him, and which stood before him.
So instead of listening to the counsel of the elders, the men with wisdom, the men that had time under their belts, and decided to go talk to his homies, his friends that he grew up, people that were his age. You see that happening today. You try and tell some of these young men something, and they're quickly like, what do you know, man? I don't know you. Who are you to try and tell me? What am I going to listen to you for? What do you know? They just look at you like you're an old man that don't know nothing. That's what he did. He just completely disregarded what they said to him. But what did he do instead? Go ahead.
And he said unto them, what counsel give ye that we may answer this people, who have spoken to me, saying, make the yoke which thy father did put upon us lighter? And the young men that were grown up with him spake unto him, saying, thus shalt thou speak unto this people that spake unto thee, saying, thy father made our yoke heavy, but make thou it lighter unto us. Thus shalt thou say unto them, my little finger shall be thicker than my father's loins. And now, whereas my father did led you with a heavy yoke, I will add to your yoke. My fathers had chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions.
So in other words, you're like, you know what? You think what my father did was something? Wait till I get done with you. I'm gonna make things 10 times, I'm gonna make things 1,000 times harder for you. So he got the counsel from his buddies and see what happens. Go ahead.
So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam the third day, as king had appointed, saying, Come to me again the third day. And the king answered the people roughly, and forsook the old men's counsel that they gave him, and spake to them after the counsel of the young men, saying, My father made your yoke heavy, I will add to your yoke. My father also chastened you with whips, but I will chasten you with scorpions. Wherefore the king hearkened not unto the people, for the cause was from the Lord, that which the Lord spake by Ahai, uh, Ahijah the Shilonite unto Jeroboam the son of Nebat.
The Shilonites. So hold on right there. So you notice it says that he answered the people roughly. He forsook the men's counsel that they gave him, and you see some of the men in Israel have that same spirit that Rehoboam had. They don't know how to talk to the men in their groups. They don't know how to treat them. You know what I mean? They're always, talking down to them. It's always rough talk. And then they wonder why at some point members in their groups get fed up and leave. Like, you know what? I'm tired of dealing with this. I'm leaving. It doesn't have to be that way. If you follow the scriptures, grab Proverbs 15:1.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 15 and verse 1. A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger.
So a lot of these men, just like Rehoboam, they don't know how to answer people with a soft tone. They don't know how to answer people softly. Everything is always rough and hard, and you got to show how tough and how bad you are. And then they wonder why things always go left in their camp or in their church or in their group. Like, you need to learn how to talk to people. You need to learn how to treat people. You need to learn how to take sound counsel from people. You need to learn how to let go of pride, because that's basically ultimately what it came down to. Came down to this man's pride and wanting to listen to his homies, listen to his friends. He couldn't discern between good and evil. He couldn't discern that what the older men or elder men had told him was wisdom, was wise, and what his friends told him was foolish. He couldn't discern it. He obviously wasn't thinking about the law of the Most High. He wasn't thinking about the commandments. He wasn't thinking about the Word of God when he did this. The last thing on his mind, because if he had thought about the Word of God, he would have been able to go to Proverbs 15:1 and get counsel from the Lord.
Right.
A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. So now he came at them with what? With grievous words. He talked to them roughly. He forsook the old men's counsel. And now let's find out what happens. Go to verse 16 and read on.
The book of First Kings, chapter chapter 12 and verse 16. So when all Israel saw that the king hearkened not unto them, the people answered the king, saying, What portion have we in David?
So they're like, you know what? He's coming at us like this. There's nothing here for me. That's like somebody on the job, right? You've been working hard, hoping you could get a raise, get a promotion from your job, and you go to the boss and you're like, hey boss, I was just wondering, I've been doing this and this. If I continue to do it, you think I could get a raise? You think I could get promoted? He's like, you know what, let me think about that. Let me think about it. Come back to me in 3 days. And then 3 days later, you come up to, hey boss, what's going on? Did you have time to think about it? And all of a sudden he just started going off on you. Who are you coming here asking me for a raise? What
Right.
you thinking? You think you've been working hard right now? Just wait till I get done to you. You done with you. You're gonna be working 10 times harder. You're gonna be working 100 times harder. Forget that. I ain't giving you nothing. Who you think you are? I'll run this company. What do you think is gonna happen? That worker's gonna be like, "Oh, really? Okay. You know what? I quit.
Yeah.
I'm gone. I'm out of here. There's nothing for me here." If that's the case, there's nothing. What do I have in this company? Nothing. There's nothing for me. There's no reason for me to be here. See you. Bye. So it's the same thing. They're like, you know what? There's nothing for us here in this in Israel to be under the house of David. So what did they do? Go ahead.
So it says, neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse to your tents. O Israel, now see the thing hold on. O Israel, now see to thine own house, David. So Israel departed unto their tents. But as for the children of Israel, which dwelt in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam reigned over them.
So what ended up happening was everybody that was part of Judah that dwelt in the cities of Judah, they stayed there with King Rehoboam, and all the other tribes, they split off. I'm gonna tell you, got ghost. We don't have nothing to do with you then. Bye. Go ahead and read.
But as for the verse 18, then King Rehoboam sent Adoram, who was over the tribute, and all Israel stood him with stones. Hold
They
on,
stoned him with stones.
right? And all Israel stoned him with stones that he died. Therefore, King Rehoboam made speed to get him up to his chariot to flee to Jerusalem. So Israel rebelled against the house of David unto this day.
So Israel, meaning the other tribes, rebelled against the house of David unto this day. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, when all Israel heard that Jeroboam was come again, that they sent and called him unto the congregation and made him king over all Israel. There was none that followed the house of David, but the tribe of Judah only.
There was none that followed the house of David, but the tribe of Judah only. Judah was on its own. All the other tribes left. They split off. This is where the split happened in our nation. This incident right here in black and white in the Bible, and you have people not wanting to hearken, not wanting to listen, especially our oppressors. They're not going to teach this to our people. They're not going to allow you to know the truth because they want to keep you divided. They want to keep the disunity. They want to keep the violence. They want us fighting each other and killing each other. Even though they sometimes try and act like they don't, it's
Right.
just an act. They want us in the position that we're in right now.
Right.
All right. Go ahead on, read on.
Verse 21. And when Rehoboam was come to Jerusalem, he assembled all the house of Judah with the tribe of Benjamin, and 180,000 chosen men, which were warriors, to fight against the house of Israel, to bring the kingdom again to Rehoboam, the son of Solomon.
So he came with, you know what? I'm gathering the troops. He's gathered up 180,000 men. 180,000 men. He was ready to go to battle to, go and fight our brothers to bring them back into the fold. But what happened? Go ahead.
But the word of God came unto Shemaiah, the man of God, saying, Speak unto Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, king of Judah, and unto all the house of Judah and Benjamin, and to the remnant of the people, saying, Thus saith the Lord, ye shall not go up nor fight against your brethren, the children of Israel. Return every man to his house, for this thing is from me. They hearken therefore to the word of the Lord, and return to depart according to the word of the Lord.
And so, why did God do this? Why did God jack our people up and allow us to become divided? You got to go back and read history. I'm not going to read it today, but you got to go back and read what Solomon did, what King David did. Because of King David's sins, the Most High threatened that he was going to take part of the kingdom from him, but he wasn't going to take it from him. He was going to take it from his son. Or was it Solomon? Do I have it backwards? It was David or Solomon. Nah, I got to go back and read that again. Now I'm confused. But that's what ended up happening. That's how this came about. All right. Let me see. Give me a second. I want to get that right. I don't want to.
The kingdom was taken from who?
Yeah.
It's Solomon, no? The kingdom was taken from Solomon?
No, it was taken from Solomon, but originally the prophecy was first told to David or Solomon. It was one of them
It was,
because of the sin they committed, and the
it
Most
was
High was upset about it.
wasn't it, it was given to David to let him know that it was going to come down onto his son,
Yeah,
Solomon?
I just want to make sure I'm saying it right. I want to misquote
Right,
it.
right.
Oh my gosh. Let me see. Mm, just give me a second. Save some speakers on while I
Right.
look for this because I don't know why it's my mind's going blank on it. It was Solomon. Okay, it was Solomon. I don't know why it took me so long to find it. Just real quick, go to First Kings 11:9, so we can actually read it, so people know that this was actually a prophecy that was given to Solomon. I couldn't remember if it was given to David or to Solomon. It was given to Solomon.
The book of First Kings, chapter 11 and verse 9. And the Lord was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from the Lord God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice, and had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord commanded. Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes which I have commanded thee, I will surely rent the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant.
So that was the prophecy that he would rend the kingdom from him. Go ahead.
Notwithstanding, in the days I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I
So
will
he actually
rend it,
said, "In thy days I will not do it for David thy father's sake." Go ahead.
out of the hand of thy son.
But I will rend it out of the hand of thy son, meaning he was going to rend it out of, take it out of the hand of his son Rehoboam. Go ahead.
Howbeit I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to the son of David, my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen.
So he said, "Howbeit I will not rend it. I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to the son, to thy son, for David my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen." So he's telling, "I'm not going to take all of the kingdom from you. I'm going to leave you one tribe," and that's why we're reading about there was only the tribe of Judah that
Hmm.
was left, and all the other tribes had split away. That was all done because of what King Solomon had did, and by him getting involved in all kinds of idolatry because of all the different wives that he had. All right, so this incident was brought about, and the Lord always does that. He always gives us a way out. This could have been avoided if Rehoboam had listened to counsel,
Right.
but he didn't listen. So the Most High had no choice but to go through with his plan. Like, all right, then gave you a chance. You didn't want to take it, so that's how the split happened. And now let's go back. Let's read about what happened from there. Verse 25, going back to chapter 12.
Right. Verse 25. Then Jeroboam built Sichem in Mount Ephraim, and dwelt therein, and went out from thence and built Penuel. And Jeroboam said in his heart, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David. If this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of the Lord at Jerusalem, then shall the heart of this people turn again unto their Lord, even unto Rehoboam king of Judah, and they shall kill me, and go again to Rehoboam king of Judah. Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold, thy gods of behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And he set the one in Bethlehem, and the other put in Dan. Put
It
he in Dan.
says, and he set the one in Bethel, and the other put he in Dan. Go ahead.
And this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan. And he made a house of high places, and made priests of the lowest of the people, which were not of the sons of Levi. And Jeroboam ordained a feast in the 8th month, on the 15th day of the month, like unto the feast that is in Judah, and he offered upon the altar. So did he in Bethlehem, sacrificing unto the calves that he had made. And he placed in Bethlehem the priests of the high places which he had made. So he offered up the altar which he had made in Bethlehem the 15th day of the 8th month, even into the month which he had diverse of his own heart,
which he had devised of his own heart.
which he had devised of his own heart, and ordained a feast unto the children of Israel, and he offered upon the altar and burnt incense.
So what Jeroboam did, he was so afraid of what became known as the northern kingdom, the other tribes that is split away. He was so afraid of them wanting to go to Jerusalem to worship at the feast as they were supposed to. He made the two golden calves and said, these are your gods, and brought the whole nation, which became known as the northern kingdom of Israel, into idolatry right off the bat, brought them into sin. So this divide, this division has been plaguing our people ever since then. This one incident right here is what caused the division in the northern kingdom and southern kingdom of Israel, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans.
Right.
We know the cause of it. So now what are we going to do to change it? What's the solution? Well, the solution is right here in the scriptures. We just got to we got to want to change. We got to want to make things better. All right. Let's go to Hosea chapter 1 and verse 1. You're going to read through verses 11, because now we're going to read about, this is years and years after the split happened, that we're going to find that the northern kingdom of Israel continued in idolatry, continued in sin, and got to the point to where they came to the height of their sins, that the Most High finally said, you know what? I'm done with you. All right, go ahead.
The book of Hosea, chapter 1 and verse 1. The word of the Lord that came unto Hosea, the son of Berian, 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 I
Beery.
can't say Beri. In the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, king of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel. The beginning of the word of the Lord by Hosea, and the Lord said unto Hosea, go take unto thee a wife of whoredoms and children of whoredoms, for the land had committed great whoredom, departing from the Lord. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of the Diblaim, which conceived and bare him a son. And the Lord said unto him, call his name Jezreel, for yet a little while, and I will avenge the blood of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu, and will cause to seize the kingdom of the house of Israel. And it shall come to pass at that day that I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel. And she conceived again and bare a daughter. And God said unto him, call her name Loruhamah, for I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. But I will have mercy upon the house of Judah, and will save them by the Lord their God, and will not save them by bow, nor by sword, nor by battle, by horsemen, nor by horsemen. Now when she had weaned, Loruhamah, she conceived and bare a son. Then said God, call his name Loami, for ye are not my people, and I will not be your God. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living God. Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together, and appoint themselves one head, and they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel.
So you can see what happened. He said, he got to the point, like, you know what? You are not my people. I'm not going to be your God. He completely cut them off. But the prophecy in verse 10 said, "Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. It shall come to pass in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people. There it shall be said unto them, Ye are the sons of the living God. Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel," meaning the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, "be gathered together and appoint themselves one head. And they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel." That's the prophecy.
Right.
That at some point in the future, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom would come back together. And that's the time we're living in right now, where we're trying to bring our people back together. And unfortunately, as we're trying to build, because what are we building? We're trying to rebuild the temple of the Lord, not the physical brick and mortar temple. We're trying to bring together his people, which are the temple of the living God. We are his building. All right. So just like what happened when we tried to rebuild the physical temple, the other nations came against us. They came in and tried to hinder us in building. And the same thing is happening today. As we're spiritually trying to rebuild the temple of our people, you got the other nations coming and trying to hinder us. They're trying to block us from being able to rebuild. Nothing's changed. There's nothing new under the sun. So we have to understand that these two nations, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, as it says, "Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together and appoint themselves one head." That was the whole reason Christ came, was to bring us back together as one and give us a way to repent from our sins and receive forgiveness for the sins that we committed, not just individually, but us as a nation of people. That's where Christianity goes wrong, because everything with Christianity is on an individual level. They say it's the church God is dealing with, but it's the church it is that he's dealing with, but the church is his people. You Israelites, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans.
Right.
Christ came to bring you back together under one fold. We'll show you. Let's go to John 11 and 48 through 52.
The book of John, chapter 11 and verse 48. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him. And the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation. And one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, You know nothing at all.
He's like, you
Nor,
guys know what you're talking about.
nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. And this spake he not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus should die for the nation, for that nation, and not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one the children of God that were scattered abroad.
But that also he should gather together in one the children of God that were scattered abroad, bringing us all back together and appointing one head over us, just as we had read was prophesied in Hosea. Let's go to Ezekiel 34 and 11 through 24. We're going to read some more of that prophecy of the two kingdoms coming back together and appointing one head, or being appointed one head.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 34, and verse 11.
We're going to read through 24.
For thus said the Lord God, Behold, I, even I, will both search my sheep and seek them out. As a shepherd seeketh out his flock in the day that he is among his sheep that are scattered, so will I seek out my sheep and will deliver them out of all places where they have been scattered in the cloudy and dark day. And I will bring them out from the people and gather them from the countries, and will bring them to their own land and feed them upon the mountains of Israel, by the rivers, and in all the inhabited places of the country. I will feed them in a good pasture, and upon the high mountains of Israel shall their fold be. There shall they lie in a good fold, and in a fat pasture shall they feed upon the mountains of Israel. I will feed my flock, and I will cause them to lie down, saith the Lord God. I will seek that which was lost, and bring again that which was driven away, and will bind up that which was broken, and will strengthen that which was sick. But I will destroy the fat and the strong. I will feed them with judgment. And as for you, O my flock, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I judge between cattle, between the rams and the he goat. Seemeth it seemeth it a small thing unto you to have eaten up the good pasture, but ye must tread down with your feet the residue of your pastures, and to have drunk of the deep waters, but ye must foul the residue with your feet. And as for my flock, they eat that which ye have trodden with your feet, and they drink that which ye have foul with your feet. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God unto them: Behold, I, even I, will judge between the fat cattle and between the lean cattle, because ye have thrust with side and with shoulders, and push all the disease with your horns, till ye have scattered them abroad. Therefore will I save my flock, and they shall no more be a prey, and will judge between cattle and cattle. And I will set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them, even my servant David. He shall feed them, and he shall be their shepherd. And I, the Lord, will be their God, and my servant David a prince among them. I, the Lord, have spoken it.
So again, the prophecy is what? And I will set up one shepherd over them. He's going to bring together his flock. His flock. All right. His sheep. Let's go to Ezekiel 37 and 15 through 28.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 37 and verse 15. The word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick, and write upon it for Judah, and for the children of Israel his companions. Then take another stick, and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel his companions. And join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in the hand. And when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, Wilt thou not show us what thou meanest by this? Say unto them, Thus saith the Lord, um, the, say unto them, Thus say the Lord God, Behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribe of Israel, his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. And the stick whereon thou writest shall be in thy hand before their eyes. And say unto them, Thus said the Lord God, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whither they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountain of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all. And they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be division into two kingdoms anymore at all.
Divided into two kingdoms anymore. Read that whole part again right there.
Right. Neither shall they be divided
Start
into
at the beginning of it, verse 22.
Verse 22. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all. And there shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms anymore at all.
So that was the prophecy, that he was going to give us one king, and we were no longer going to be divided into two kingdoms. All right, go ahead.
Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idol, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I will save them out of all their dwelling places, wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their God. And David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgment and observe my statutes and do them. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt. And they shall dwell therein, even they and their children and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them, uh, and I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yeah, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And the heathen shall know that I, the Lord, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore.
All right. So who's this flock? Who is he talking about? Grab Ezekiel 34 and 30 through 31. Who is his sheep?
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 34, um, it's a 34 and
30 through 31.
verse 30. Thus shall they know that I, the Lord their God, am with them, and that they, even the house of Israel, are my people, saith the Lord God. And ye, my flock, the flock of my pasture, are men, and I am your God, saith the Lord God.
So his sheep, his flock, are the house of Israel. That's why he says, thus shall they know that I, the Lord their God, am with them, and that they, even the house of Israel, are my people, saith the Lord. And ye, my flock, the flock of my pasture, are men, and I am your God, saith the Lord God. So he clearly expresses that the Israelites are his flock, that the Israelites are his sheep. But who's the he? Who is the shepherd? Who is that one shepherd that's going to get set up over the Israelites, over the northern kingdom and southern kingdom? We just read that it was expedient for the nation that one man should die for the nation, and that through his death, um, he would bring together the two nations, that they don't be separated anymore, right?
Right.
But who is that shepherd? Let's go to the book of First Peter. And we're going to go to chapter 5 and verses 2 through 4.
The book of First Peter, chapter 5, and verse 2. Be the flock of God, which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind, neither as being lords over God's heritage, but being ensample to the flock. And when the chief shepherd shall appear, ye shall receive a crown of glory that fadeth not away.
And when the
Likewise,
chief shepherd shall appear, you shall receive a crown of glory that fadeth not away. Who is that shepherd? Who is the chief shepherd? We'll find out. Let's go to 1 Peter 2 and 21 through 25.
the book of
Just
First
bear
Peter,
with us.
chapter 2, and verse 21. For even hereunto were ye called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that ye should follow his steps, who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth, who when he was revealed not again. When he suffered, he threatened not, but committed himself to him that judged righteously, who his own self bare our sins in his own body on the tree, that we being dead to sin, should live unto righteousness, by whose stripes ye were healed. For ye were as sheep going astray, but are now returned unto the shepherd and bishop of your soul.
So that is talking about who? Talking about Christ. For ye were as sheep going astray, but are now returned unto the shepherd and bishop of your souls. We are the flock, we are his sheep. He is the chief shepherd. He is the bishop of our souls. Let's go to John 10 and 1 through 16.
The book of John, chapter 10 and verse 1. Verily, verily I say unto you, he that entereth not by the door into the shepherdfold,
To the
but
sheepfold.
to the sheepfold, but climbeth up some other way, the same is the thief and a robber. But he that entereth in by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the porter openeth, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calleth his own sheep by name, and leadeth them out. And when he putteth forth his own sheep, he goeth before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. And a stranger will they not follow, but will flee from him, for they know not the voice of strangers. This parable spake Jesus unto them, but they understood not what thing they were which he spake unto them. Then said Jesus unto them again, Verily, verily, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. All that ever come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out, and find pasture. The thief cometh not, but for to steal, and to kill, and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. But he that is
So he
a
says, I read that again. Don't let that marinate with them. Let's read it again.
I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep.
Again, showing that Christ is the shepherd. He says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. Remember, he gave his life to bring back together in one the children of Israel that were what? Scattered abroad. Go ahead and read.
Um, but he that is an hireling and not the shepherd, whose own sheep are not, seeth the wolf coming, and leaveth the sheep, and fleeth, and the wolf catcheth them, and scattereth the sheep. The hireling fleeth, because he is an hireling, and careth not for the sheep. I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and am known of mine. As the Father knoweth me, even so know I the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And another sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd.
Because remember, originally they went to who? The southern kingdom. And he's letting them know, other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, meaning of the southern kingdom, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. Remember that there is going to be no longer two kingdoms, two nations divided anymore. All right. So you've got to go by what's written and stop listening to these pastors and these churches. All right, so let's go to Hebrews chapter 13 and verses 20 through 21. So Christ is the shepherd. Go ahead. And the nation of Israel, both northern and southern kingdom, are the sheep.
The book of Hebrews, chapter 13 and verse 20. It says, Now the God of peace, that brought again from the dead our Lord Jesus, the great shepherd of the sheep, through the blood of the everlasting covenant, make you perfect in every good work to do his will, working in you that which is well pleasing in his sight, through Jesus Christ, to whom be glory forever and ever. Amen.
All right. So we know that what? The Lord Jesus is that great shepherd of the sheep, as we read right here in Hebrews 13:20. Now the God of peace that brought again from the dead our Lord Jesus, that great shepherd of the sheep, through the blood of the everlasting covenant. So it should be abundantly clear that Christ the shepherd, the Israelites, both northern and southern kingdom, is what? They're the sheep. He's the king. We have constantly rejected our king. In times past, we rejected him, and our people continue to reject him. All right, let's go to 1 Samuel 12:12. Or actually, first, hold on. Yeah, go to 1 Samuel 12:12.
The book of First Samuel, chapter 12, and verse 12. And when ye saw the Nahash, the king of the children of Ammon, came again against you, he said unto me, Nay, but a king shall reign over us, when the Lord your God was your king.
So remember um, that Israel begged for a king, and the Most High was like, okay, if you guys want a king, I'll give you a king. And that's how what's his name came into power, became king during the time of Samuel. Why can't I remember his name right now? My mind is so blank today. What is going on?
Right.
Um, before David, what's his name? Oh my gosh.
Don't know. Solomon?
No, that's Solomon. How would Solomon be before David?
um,
All right. First, let's go to 1 Samuel 8.
First Samuel.
Because this is what this is talking about. What we read in 1 Samuel 12:12, when it says, and when you saw that Nahash, the king of the children of Ammon, came against you, said unto me, Nay, but a king shall reign over us, when the Lord your God was your king. So we're going to read 1 Samuel 8. Actually, just read all the way through 22. Just read it all.
The
Give
book
some
of First
context.
Samuel. There you go. The book of First Samuel, chapter 8, and verse 1. And it came to pass, when Samuel was old, that he made his son judges over Israel. Now the name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second, Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba, and his sons walked not in his ways, but turned aside after uh, lucre, luc- lucre, and took bribes and perverse judgment. Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together and came to Samuel unto Ramah, and said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, Give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto the Lord. And the Lord said unto Samuel, Hearken unto the voice of the people in all that they say unto thee, for they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. According to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me and served other gods, so do they also unto thee. Now therefore hearken unto their voice, howbeit ye protest solemnly unto them, and show them the manner of the king that shall reign over them. And Samuel told all the words of the Lord unto the people that asked of him a king. And he said, This will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots, and to be his horsemen, and some shall run before his chariots. And he will appoint him captains over thousands and captains over 50, and will set them to ear his ground, and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war and instruments of his chariot. And he will take your daughters to be confectionaries, and to be cooks, and to be bakers. And he will take your field and your vineyards and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. And he will take the tenth of your seed and of your vineyards, and give to his officers and to his servants. And he will take your men servants and your maid servants and your godly young men and your asses, and put them to his work. He will take the tenth of your sheep, and ye shall be his servants. And ye shall cry out in that day because of your king, which ye shall have chosen you. And the Lord will not hear you in that day. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel. And they said, Nay, but we will have king over us, that we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us, and go out before us, and fight our battles. And Samuel heard all the words of the people, and he uh, rehearsed them in the ears of the Lord. And the Lord said unto Samuel, Hearken unto their voice, and make them a king. And Samuel said unto the men of Israel, Go ye every man unto his city.
All right. So what happened? Going back up to verse 6, is the thing displeased Samuel when they said, Give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto the Lord. Verse 7, and the Lord said unto Samuel, Hearken unto the voice of the people and all that they say unto thee, for they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. So in other words, who was it, the Lord, that was talking to Samuel? You haven't figured that out by now. That was actually Christ. Okay. That was Christ dealing with Samuel that whole time back then. It was Christ the whole time dealing with Israel. All right. So we rejected him from being our king. That's why. Now let's go back to 1 Samuel 12 and 12.
First Samuel chapter 12 and verse 12. And when ye saw the Nahash, the king of the children of Ammon, came against you, he said unto me, Nay, but a king shall reign over us, when the Lord your God was your king.
When the Lord God was your king, he had planned on being our king from the very start. He, from the moment he gave us a kingdom, he was planning on being our king. But what do our people do? Our people are so impatient, they rejected him. So what should have happened years ago, now we've got to continue to wait and wait and wait and wait because of our disobedience. There's no telling where our people would be if we had
Right,
obeyed. We would be
right,
running this world right now. There is no telling what kind of technology and everything the Lord would have given us. No telling what kind of abilities we would have, or this world would not be in shambles. You know what I mean? We would not be going through none of the stuff we're going through right now. We'd be living in a loving, peaceful world right now.
right.
So let's go Isaiah 43 and 14 through 15.
Book of Isaiah chapter 43 and verse 14. And it says, Thus said the Lord, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, for your sake I have sent to Babylon, and have brought down all their nobles, and the Chaldeans, whose cry is in the ships. I am the Lord, your Holy One, the Creator of Israel, your King.
Read that part again, that last part.
Your King.
Uh,
The,
the
I am the
create.
Lord. I am the
Yeah, go
Lord,
ahead.
your Holy One, the Creator of Israel, your King.
The creator of Israel, your king. All of this is Christ talking. That all of it is Christ. All right. He's the creator of Israel. He created us. He's our king. All right. Um, I don't know why it's so hard for people to understand that,
Right.
but we begged for a king. He gave us one. He told us what was going to happen. And he allowed it to happen, but he knew, we rejected him. So he just kind of let it go, as he always has. He's always just let stuff go for a while. All right. But nevertheless, Israel continues to be a house that's divided. And this was actually prophecy that was going to happen. Go to Deuteronomy 28 and 54.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother, and towards the wife of his bosom, and towards the remnant of his children, which he shall leave.
So this was already prophesied, that we were going to have that evil eye towards our brothers. We were not going to be getting along, even towards the wives, of some of our brothers, and towards their children. You read so much nowadays about our men leaving our women and the children. You know what I mean? But we were told not to hate each other. That was from the very beginning. Leviticus 19, 17 and 18.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 19 and verse 17. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord.
So we were told not to hate our brothers. We were told not to avenge. But did Israel listen? Israel, as usual, did not listen at all. All right. Um, let's go to the book of Ephesians, chapter 2, in verses 11 through 22.
The book of Ephesians, chapter 2 and verse 11. Wherefore remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands, that at that time you were without Christ, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel, and strangers from the covenant of promise, having no hope and without God in the world. But now in Christ Jesus, you who sometimes were far off are made nigh by the blood of Christ. For he is our peace, who had made both one, and had broken down the middle wall of partition between us, having abolished his flesh, the enmity, even the law of commandments contained in ordinances, for to make in himself of twain one new man, so making peace, and that he might reconcile both unto God in one body by the cross, having slain the enmity thereby, and came and preached peace to you which were afar off, and to them that were nigh. For through him we both have access by one Spirit unto the Father. Now therefore ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and of the household of God, and are built upon the foundations of the apostles and prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone, in whom all the building filthy uh, filthy framed together groweth
Fitly together.
fitly, thank you, fitly framed together groweth unto an holy temple in the Lord, in whom ye also are builded together for an inhabitation of God through the Spirit.
So that goes back into what I was saying earlier, that we are here trying to rebuild the Lord's temple, which is his spiritual temple, which is his people, bringing Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom Israel back together. And in so doing, what do we have? We have the other nations that are trying to hinder us, just like they did in times past. But as we
Right.
just read, as we read in verse 14, it says, "For he is our peace." Talking about who? Talking about Christ, because that's what it says in verse 13. "But now in Christ Jesus, ye who sometimes were far off are made nigh by the blood of Christ." What you have to understand is when you get to the New Testament, this all goes back to the Old Testament, that Christ came to bring back together the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. Not talking about bringing the Jews back together with the Gentiles, the real Gentile nations. And how could we be brought back together when we were never together to begin with? It makes no sense at all. But
Right.
that's what Christianity is pushing on the people, that Christ came to bring the Jews and the Gentiles together as one. And that's not what's going on in the scriptures. It says, "For he is our peace, who had made both one." Talk, well, who are the both? Southern kingdom and northern kingdom. "Hath broken down the middle wall of partition between us, having abolished in his flesh the enmity." What is enmity? That hatred that was between our two nations. "Even the law of commandments contained in ordinances, for to make in himself of twain one new man, so making peace, and that he might reconcile both unto God in one body by the cross, having slain the enmity thereby." But what has happened? We still are hating each other, even though he came and died on the cross to bring
Right.
us back together, and that still is not good enough. Still
No.
not good enough.
No.
It's sad. All right. So when it comes to this truth, and anybody that's trying to bring division, you got to stop it cold. You got to be one that's willing to say, you know what, man, that's not what the Most High wants from us. He's told us that there be no divisions among us. But for whatever reason, some of our brothers in the truth don't want to hear it. Let's go to Romans 16 and 17 through 18.
The book of Romans, chapter 16 and verse 17. Now, I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause division and offenses, contrary to the doctrine which ye have learned, and avoid them. For they that are such serve not our Lord Jesus Christ, but their own belly, and by good words and fair speeches deceive the hearts of the simple.
All right, so that's what we're commanded. It says, "Now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause divisions and offenses contrary to the doctrine which you have learned, and avoid them." Because back then there were people who were teaching doctrines contrary to what the apostles were teaching, meaning other camps out there that were teaching other things. All of that was supposed to be forgotten about, let go, and everyone was supposed to come under Christ, teaching Christ's doctrine. But unfortunately, today we've got so many teachers, so many doctrines, just so much foolishness and confusion going on, that we really need to do what? Some of these leaders need to go.
Right.
Some of you people need to stop tuning in and watching some of these guys. Stop joining their camp. Stop giving them money. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verses 10 through 13.
The book of First Corinthians, chapter 1 and verse 10. Now, I beseech you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that ye all speak the same thing, and that there be no division among you, but that ye be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment. For it had been declared unto me of you, my brethren, by them which are of the house of Chloe, that there were contentions among you. Now this I say, that every one of you saith, I am of Paul, and I of Apollos, and I of Cephas, and I of Christ. Is Christ divided? Was Paul crucified for you? Or were ye baptized in the name of Paul?
So again, we're told what? That you all speak the same thing, and that there be no divisions among you, but that ye be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment. You don't see that going on in the Israelite community. It's so apparent that even a group as wicked as the SPLC can see it. Somebody as wicked and evil as Vocab Malone can see it, and he talks about it all the time. That's one of his biggest points, that no, they can't even get along. So that's a good selling point to somebody if you're trying to keep them from joining and converting back to their Israelite roots. That's all it takes. Somebody see they can't even get along. They're divided among each other. They can't even. They all teach different things. They speak different things. They're out there on the street corners fighting each other. So why would you want to be a point of that? And the majority of people are going to be like, you know what, you're right. Why would I want to be a part of that? Why would I want to join it? All right. And that's one of the things you see, just like that was going on here. This camp banging and these camp leader worship. Now, this I say, that every one of you saith, I am of Paul, and I have Apollos, and I have Cephas, and I have Christ. You got these people out there doing the same things today. I'm with Tahar. I'm with GMS. I'm with General Yohana, ISCPK. We over here with IUIC. We under Bishop Nathaniel, under General Nathaniel. We're over here with what's his name of GOCC? I can't even think of his name. It'll hit me later. My mind is like blank today. I don't know what's wrong with me. But GOCC. That's what's going. The same thing that happened back then is the same stuff going on today. And they don't want to acknowledge that this is bringing division among us. Is Christ divided? Was Paul crucified for you? Or were you baptized in the name of Paul? You can say the same thing about these leaders today. Did any of them die for us? Were they crucified for us? Were we baptized in their names? No. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verses 1 through 11.
The book of 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 1. And I, brethren, could not speak unto you as unto spiritual, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in Christ. I have fed you with milk and not with meat. For hither to ye were not able to bear it, neither yet now are ye able.
And that goes for today and any other time we're teaching. That we're trying to feed you with milk. We're not trying to feed you with meat, especially some of these elders. All right, and I'm stressing some. Not all of them, some of them need to be retaught. And I, brethren, cannot speak unto you as unto spiritual, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in Christ. I have fed you with milk and not with meat. For hitherto you were not able to bear it, because even now you can't bear it. Neither yet now are ye able. Some of them are not able to just digest as meat. They can't do it. That's why we're trying to just spoon feed you with milk.
Right.
Why is that? Read on. We will see why.
For ye are yet carnal. For whereas there is among you envying and strife and division, are ye not carnal and walk as men?
For ye are yet carnal. For whereas there is among you envying and strife and divisions, are ye not carnal and walk as men? Some of these men are so carnally minded they don't even see it. Go ahead.
For while one saith, I am of Paul, and another, I am of Apollos, are ye not carnal? Who then is Paul, and who is Apollos? But ministers by whom ye believe, even as the Lord gave to every man. I have planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. So that neither is he that planted anything, neither he that watereth, but God that giveth the increase.
So I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it boldly because the scriptures just said it.
Right.
These men are nothing.
Right.
I'm nothing. He's
Right.
nothing.
Right.
What are you guys running around the Israelite community arguing and fighting with each other over?
Right.
It's crazy. It makes no sense. Over your leadership, over your camp colors, camp corners, and dumb stuff. Doctrines. Go ahead and read.
Now, he that planteth and he that watereth are one, and every man shall receive his own reward according to his own labor.
He shall receive his own reward according to his own labor. Go ahead.
For we are laborers together with God.
We are all laborers together with God. Some of them need to get off their high horses. And there's no pun intended in that at all. I don't want
Right.
nobody trying to say I'm taking a shot at anybody for riding on a horse. And nothing like that, because that's not what's happening. I'm just
Right.
saying that some of these men need to get off their high horses, drop their pride,
Right.
and understand that we're all laborers, whether you got one or two people working together or you got thousands of people in a group working together. We're all one. We need to stop dividing each other up by these groups because it's not what the Most High intended for us. Go ahead.
Um, ye are God's husbandry, ye are God's building.
Ye are God's building, exactly what I was saying earlier. We are trying to build the temple of God. We're trying to rebuild it spiritually, bringing his people back together, which are the temple of God. We are his building. We are the church. But there are people out there that are trying to hinder the building. Go ahead.
According to the grace of God, which is given unto me as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation, and other builded thereon. But let every man take heed how he builded thereupon. For other foundations can no man lay than that is laid, which is Jesus Christ.
You can't be trying to lay no other foundation, but a lot of you, and I'm not talking about the leaders right now, I'm talking about a lot of their followers. You're trying to lay a foundation that's laid upon your leader in your camp, not upon Christ. All you have to do is listen to the rhetoric that comes out of a lot of the people's mouths in the Israelite community, and you hear their leaders' names coming out of their mouth way more than you hear Christ's name. It's all about leader so and so, leadership so and so, leader. You know what
Right.
I mean? And man, do you guys ever mention Christ? Go to 1 Corinthians 11 and 18.
The book of First Corinthians, chapter 11 and verse 18. For first of all, when ye come together in the church, I heard that there be division among you, and I partly believe it.
And I partly believe it. Same thing here. I believe it because I see it. As it says, well, first of all, when you come together in the church, I hear that there be divisions among you, and I partly believe it. Aren't we supposed to be coming together on the Sabbath day today?
Mm-hmm.
The church is supposed to be coming together. But what's happening? Divisions. You have one group over there doing one thing, another group somewhere doing another thing, another group somewhere doing their own thing. Everybody's divided doing something different. But I guarantee you could go into these synagogues anywhere in the country, anywhere around the world, and they're all doing the same thing. Same thing in unity. But for whatever reason, we can't do it. Let's go to Galatians 1 and 7 through 9.
The book of Galatians, chapter 1 and verse 7.
Actually make it through verse 10.
Galatians chapter 1 and verse 7, which is not another, but there be some that trouble you and would pervert the gospel of Christ. But though we or an angel from heaven preach another gospel unto you, that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. And as we said before, so say I now again, if any man preach another gospel unto you than that ye have received, let him be accursed. For do I now persuade men or God, or do I seek to please men? For if I yet please men, I should not be the servant of Christ.
And some of you don't understand that you can't be the servant of Christ because a lot of you are out here being men pleasers. The scriptures are saying it. For do I now persuade men or God? Or do I seek to please men? For if I yet please men, I should not be the servant of Christ. Some of you are out here in this truth, working hard because you want to get recognized by some of these men so you can gain rank, so you get recognition, so you can be idolized. You can make rap music. You can sing. That's your motive for being in this.
Right.
Says I should not be the servant of Christ. And a lot of you shouldn't be the servant of Christ. There are a lot of people that are waking up and coming into the truth that are knowing they're Israelites, but in reality, they don't care nothing about keeping the commandments of the Most High and bringing our people together in unity.
Right.
Let's go to Galatians 2 and 4.
Book of Galatians chapter 2 and verse 4. And that because of false brethren unaware brought in, who came in privily to spy out our liberty which we have in Christ Jesus, that they might bring us into bondage.
So you see that happening also. You see the government sending spies into schools. You see it happening out on the streets all of a sudden. Brothers are out on the streets teaching, and all of a sudden you have these people walking up, and you can tell some of them are undercover cops.
Right.
That's why I keep trying to tell you guys need to watch what you're saying on the streets, a lot of you, and who you're saying it to, especially some of these Edomites.
Right.
Because sometimes you could tell, like, man, can they not tell that dude's an undercover cop? Just look at him. He's he just looks like a cop. He sounds like a cop. He's talking to you and interrogating you the same way a cop would to get information from you. And some of them just don't know how to control or contain their mouths, and just be like, man. It's like, do you not understand that? Yeah, they're going to be sending, and they have already started. They're sending people out to the camps to gather information. All right, it's happening. Let's go to Philippians 3 and 2 through 3.
The book of Philippians chapter 3 and verse 2. Beware of dogs. Beware of evil workers. Beware of the concessions. For we are the circumcision which worship God in the spirit and rejoice in Christ Jesus and have no confidence in the flesh.
All right, let's go to Colossians 2 and 8.
Mm. The book of Colossians chapter 2 and verse 8. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the traditions of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ.
So beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. Because that's what's going on. A lot of this division in Israel is not after Christ. This is after what? A lot of philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, following after the traditions of our forefathers back in the day that got all divided in these different camps. And that has become a tradition in Israel now. And it's just spreading and spreading and spreading. Every time you turn around, a new camp springing up. And I think I've already shown it one time
Mm-hmm.
that even, on my YouTube page on the number of camps that I'm subscribed to.
Right.
And there's always, almost every week, a new camp springing up with different names, different colors,
Right.
different, what do you call it? Emblems or whatever you call it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's never ending. Let's go to 2 Peter's 2:1-3.
The book of 2 Peter's chapter 2 and verse 1. But there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privily shall bring in damnable heresies, even denying the Lord that brought them, and bring upon themselves swift destruction. And many shall follow their pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. And through covetousness shall they with vain words make merchandise of you, whose judgment now of a long time lingereth not, and their damnation slumbereth not.
All right. So again, there were false prophets also among the people, as there shall be false teachers among you. And we're seeing this holding true. All right. Let's go to 2 John chapter 1 and verse 7-11.
2 John 7 through 11, it says, For many deceivers are entered into the world, who confess not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh. This is a deceiver and an antichrist. Look to yourself look to yourselves that we lose not those things which we have wrought, but that we receive a full reward. Whosoever transgresseth and abideth not in the doctrine of Christ had not God. He that abideth in the doctrine of Christ, he had both the Father and the Son. If there come any unto you and bring not this doctrine, receive him not into your house, neither bid him Godspeed. For he that bideth him
Bid it.
good biddeth, yeah. For he that biddeth him good Godspeed is partaker of his evil deeds. Having
So he's
many
telling
things.
us again, that's it,
I'm
just
sorry.
verse 11. He says,
Yeah.
for many deceivers are entered into the world who confess not that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh. Seeing that all over the world. And especially right now in today's times, we don't have time to be divided and fighting each other and arguing and, you know what I mean, having all these different doctrines and different camp names and colors and all of this stuff is just foolishness. It's stupid. It's no different than our people out here gang banging. It is no different. You're just doing it all in the name of Christ and doing it all in the name of being an Israelite, but you're still gang banging. That's
Right.
basically what it's coming down to. No sugarcoating it. You're still out here being a thug.
Right.
Listen to the way some of them are talking, the way they're cursing each other out. When is it going to change? Let's go to 2 Corinthians 13 and 11.
The book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 13 and verse 11. Finally, brethren, farewell. Be perfect. Be of good comfort. Be of one mind. Live in peace. And the God of love and peace shall be with you.
Ecclesiastes 12 and 13-14.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12 and verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil.
And with that, we're going to say shalom, most high in Christ blessed. We will see you next Sabbath. Lord's will, people become edified and understand that we are not to have any divisions among us. Let
Right.
us not continue to be divided. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be, well, you're not with my camp, so I'm not going to congregate with you. You know what I mean? It's just getting to the point to where it's just getting foolish. A lot
Right.
of it is coming down to money. You know what I mean? What would be the harm in us having just one big, large Passover for everybody?
Imagine that.
Exactly. Imagine that. But it's not going to happen because somebody's not going to get their piece of the pie.
Right.
They're not going to be able to charge that $100, $200, $300, $400, $500 for people to go to their Passovers and make that money. You know, it's sad that everything always comes back to the almighty dollar. It's
Hmm.
sad. But with that, we're going to say shalom, most high in Christ bless, and we will see you next Sabbath.